We'll call the October 1st City Council meeting to order. Commissioner Smith, will you give us a prayer pledge and fact of the day, please, sir?
Our fathers, once again, that you have allowed us the opportunity to be present in this meeting. Oh God, we ask you to continue guidance and continue to be servants of this city. Bless all those that are present this afternoon. We pray, oh God, for those that are cancer survivors, oh God, and those that are caregivers for them. In thy Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fact of the day. On October the 1st, 1908, the first production of the Model T Ford is completed at the company's Paquette Avenue plant in Detroit. Between 1908 and 1927, Ford would build some 15 million Model T cars. It was the longest running production for any automobile in history until the Volkswagen Beetle surpassed it in 1972. Fact of the day.
All right, so I need to read the decorum statement. Welcome to the public meeting of the City Council of the City of Apopka. Please turn off all cell phones or set them to silent. The City Council permits and encourages input and comments by members of the public on all matters which may come before the Council for action. If you wish to address the Council this afternoon, please make sure you've filled out a card with your contact information and have presented it to the clerk. When called upon, please proceed to the podium and speak clearly into the microphone, stating your name, address of record, organization, if any, and direct your comments to the City Council and not to individual commissioners, staff, or members of the public. The Council and the City staff encourages constructive criticism. However, personal attacks are prohibited. Please observe general rules of decorum and civility. Speakers and members of the audience shall refrain from rude or derogatory remarks, shouting, disruptions, reflections as to integrity, slander, abusive comments, profanity, vulgarities, and statements as to personalities. Any violations of these provisions may result in the issuance of verbal warnings, including warnings for trespass. If violations persist after such warnings, violators may be removed from the council chambers. Thank you. Okay. All right, public comment. Jody?
Supervisor Dr. O.
Incognito, I'm not supervisor at the beginning here. This is the time of year when you have a lot of leaves you're raking, you've been mowing your yards, and well, I guess I am supervisor at this moment. We want to remind you to only rain down the drain, and that's important. A lot of activities going around the nation warning people to keep those leaves out of the drains. And when they say the drains, they're not talking about your sink drain. They're talking about the drains out in front of your house. And those drains need to not have foliage going into them, not have trash going into them. They need to be open. And I know that it's well known among your staff back here that what goes in that drain goes into the stormwater ponds. And it rots. It causes eutrophication of those ponds, lakes, and then that gets into our watersheds, our streams and lakes, and fills up and damages the aquifer. So we want to make sure that stays clean, because then we end up drinking damaged water. And then chemicals get in there when you change your radiator fluid in the driveway, and that runs down into the aquifer, into the water system. And when you overspray your yard and it rains right afterwards because you see the rain coming and yet you decide to spray your yard, put fertilizers down, that runs into the ponds and lakes and streams. So it's very important this time of year for you to make sure that you keep those leaves out of there. You can put the leaves in your flower beds. You can put and make sure that you keep your grass in the yard. Don't bag it. And I'm sure that we know we don't want to bag our leaves. Leave that bag in the garage and keep it on the yard or in the flower beds. So that's very important. With my other hat on, um, I was so delighted to see that Greg and Doug and Juan went out there with their little paint palettes and their little paint brushes, and they did a lot of painting. First, they paved the area of 2nd Street where we had really bad potholes. Then they got out there and repaved it and got out there and painted the lines on the crosswalks really neat yesterday morning. And then they painted a bike line on Lester, and it looks beautiful and shiny in the moonlight when I go out. And it's just fantastic. So we appreciate what they've done to try and improve our crosswalks and the safety of some dangerous areas. And I want to give them accolades.
Thank you. Next up.
It's going to be Dr. Jim Moyer.
Senator Bracy Davis, Representative Bankson, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Jim Moyer. I'm elected Orange Soil and Water Conservation District 2, in which Apopka is the largest municipality based on landmass and population. So, soil and water, the legislation regarding soil water is Chapter 582. In 582.024, it specifically mentions the purpose, our purpose of all soil and water conservation districts in Florida. And the last line of number 4 says the legislator, in part, it says the legislature intends for soil and water conservation to work in conjunction with federal, state, and local agencies. And that's exactly what I plan to do this next fiscal year. And by the way, happy new fiscal year to everyone.
I'm sure Blanche would say the same thing.
And my intention is work with the USDA, the area district conservationists, to determine local needs, to work with the Florida Department of Agriculture to promote their best management practices program for anyone who isn't yet enrolled in the voluntary program. I plan on continuing to work with Orange County Environmental Protection Department, as well as Orange County Public Schools. And by the way, we just facilitated a soil donation to Akoe Elementary School. 30 bags of soil was donated to their green team. And I'm hoping this organization will continue to donate to others. I plan on continue to work with UF IFAS, St. John's, the farm workers, as well as the cattlemen and the Farm Bureau. I will be attending next Monday's Farm Bureau annual dinner. And thank you for having me, and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Next up, Leroy Bell.
Leroy Bell. Let me first start by thanking my senator for being here. You got some big shoes to fill, and I know you're ready to do it. And we also have a cult leader here also. And I just like, well, you can go ahead and go to Hammond if you want. You want to get that out the way, or you want to say, can I save my time? You know, it's kind of funny that we got all these preachers that's supposed to be saved by grace. and love to tell you about saved by grace, but don't want to show grace to none of the civilian or the citizen in Apopka in Florida at large. How in the world do you vote against somebody learning about their history? How in the world do you vote against giving young kids a break or either farm workers out in the heat? You want to get rid of DEI, you guys up on that diocese. But DEI seems to be all right when you can pick it. When you got a developer, an economic developer, chief of police, fire chief, and chief finance officer, as long as you get a chance to choose it, DEI is fine. It's an election coming on. And my understanding that we're going to have this administration down over in Apopka picking up trash with David Lodge number 47. I ain't seen this one particular white man over and around them many black folk since the last time I watched the Tarzan movie. What's up? What's the problem? You getting ready to drop the gavel because I don't like your hand-picked tool that you sent up there in Tallahassee? You don't like it? All you got to do is check his report card. Only thing that he really voted for up there was the bill that he could get more money for his school over there. I'm talking about the court leader right here. Go ahead and hit the hammer. That's what I mean. As long as it's something to satisfy you MAGA leader or mega leaders or whatever Ron the Dukes thing stand for, that's all you're good for. No, I'll stand here my last 10 seconds for you to look at me, clown. Please do your best to get rid of that clown back there.
Rod Olson.
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. I have a theme today. I said I'd try to bring good things up. It's 15 good things. If you don't recognize this, this is our crossing guards. We have 15 crossing guards serving the city right now. Talking to Sergeant Downs, all the positions are currently filled, but they're always looking for good people. You want to consider a position, go to apopka.org. I want to recognize Mary Jo, Denise, Linda, Theodore, Michael, Carrie Ann, Jody, Barbara, Gary, Veronica, Jackie, David, Thomas, Doug, and Anna Mae. These are the people that serve the city, that keep our children safe. They have an important role. They need your help no matter what the weather is. I mean, these guys, rain, sleet, snow, heat, it's incredible. They're out there every day. Central Florida is the most dangerous metropolitan area in the entire country for pedestrian accidents. The roles that these people play is critical. We need your help. Please observe the speeding zones within the school zones. Flashing lights, they're either 15 or 20 miles an hour in our city. Observe the drop-off and pick-off 1/4 mile. Ordinance 7445 from the city of Apopka. The only safe place to drop a child off is on campus at the designated area. Not on the streets, not around the areas. It's an accident waiting to happen. Crosswalks. If you can't pull your car completely past the crosswalk, don't go there. Crossing guards cannot allow children to cross when it's blocked or partially blocked. Parents, sad to say, Florida Statute 316.306. No cell phones in school zones or in construction zones, correct? Yes. As many as 1 in 2 parents dropping and picking off the children are holding their cell phone talking. It's as few as 1 in 4. It's sad. It's all about safety. traffic. I was asked to help out. I heard the radio, so I went over to help out. Poncan traffic backed up on Poncan because of Wolf Lake Elementary. I went on campus. I got people that were running behind each other in the serial line, 5 to 15 feet apart. Got them to go 3 to 4. We pulled 15 to 20 cars off the road. Please keep that in mind when you're driving on campus. I'm running out of time here. Motion. I would want someone up this dais to say, by January 21st meeting, we're going to have a Camp Weewalt plan. Second motion is to immediately advertise the amphitheater and surrounding communities. Mount Dora, Sanford, Leesburg. We've got the best venue in the Tri-County area. Motion, we immediately require vendors to serve all Saturday night sound events, not pick and choose. So when I come and bring food and there's no one there, and when I bring nothing, I come, there's no vendors. It's crazy. And I also like to have a motion to move forward on a step-by-step procedure for Golden Gem Pond.
Albert McKimmy.
Albert McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. In my opinion, Monday night's meeting was a fiasco. Commissioners, when you were elected and took your oath of office, who was that oath of office directed to? Was it the public or was it a corporate entity? Because on Monday night, issues that I have made you all aware of over the last 18 months were neglected. You chose to pass over them. You had the ability to bring them up and make this administration accountable for what happened. You chose not to do that. You chose simply to extend a contract and kick it down the road for another year. I'm here to tell you today that's not going to happen. The agreement that you signed was potentially to hand $10 million back to St. John's. Well, today I contacted St. John's again, and I now have a meeting not only with St. John's, but their legal representation and a team that I have put together to go to St. John's to present my documentation. I will be asking for them, if they demand the return of Golden Gem, it be returned in the condition to which it was given. That would mean you would have to put 1 million tons of material back into Golden Gem Road. That's $16 million that you're going to have to come up. And do you know why you're doing it? Because you're choosing to piss me off. I have no faith in anybody on this dais after Monday. You ignored the potential that we had to deal with issues that should not have been neglected. I've given all of you evidence at some point or other of what contaminants were put into that chimney. When we choose to do the work on Golden Gem Road, it's not in compliance under Florida statute just now. First thing you're going to have to do is bring it into compliance. How are you going to do that? I've already given you suggestions to do it, but now you're on your own. And now the clock's ticking, because at every opportunity I get, I'm going to attack every one of you on that dais unless you do something about it. And that's not an idle threat, and it's not something that's going to bring me pleasure. But the fact is, you are elected representatives of this community. You are aware, and it's a matter of public record, who visited Golden Gem recently. You saw the disrepair it's come into. You saw what needs to be done. You saw the drainage issues that we have. We paid $1 million to Devo Saram, who in my opinion should be held accountable for the rubbish that was dumped into that pond. Not only should he be accountable for that, I need you to explain to me why there's no interceptor trench. What happened to the dams that were going to be removing the water? And the volcano was fixed. All you did was dump rubbish into a sinkhole. You've done nothing to represent the citizens of Apopka. You're a disgrace.
Sylvester Hall.
Oh, that's a hard act to follow. Sylvester Hall, Rock Springs Ridge. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. And this message is not so much for the mayor and the commissioners, but for everybody who's listening and everybody that's in this room. The state of Apopka, the state of Florida, and our country, we're in a national crisis. We're in a national crisis because too many good people are sitting around watching bad things happening and completely looking the other way and completely being silenced. It's time to stand up against hate. It's time to stand up against corruption. It's time to stand up against racism. It's time to stand up against greed. And it's time to stand up against white privilege. These things I speak because we need strong leaders and leaders who are not afraid to speak the truth and who have the courage to speak the truth. When we normalize the abnormal, we desensitize the truth to the point the truth doesn't matter anymore. And that's where we are at in our country. And I want each and every one of you guys to think about that. Let it resonate with you when you go home, when you look at your kids, or what I'm saying here to you this afternoon. When we realize that when we select our elected officials and appointed officials, first responders, when we realize these values, that principles matter, integrity matters, honesty matters, accountability matters, responsibility matters, morals matter, ethics matter, character matters, procedures matter, leadership matters, laws matters, justice matters, and all God's people matter. I look at the assassination of Charlie Kirk and how it divided the country. And it tells you where we at for as racism. Charlie Kirk, nobody deserved to be assassinated, period, for what they say. But when we look at this freedom of speech, we all say he had the right to say what he want to say. He does. But look at America and the hypocrisy of what you when you call freedom of speech. I remember the Louis Farrakhan. He's been banned for speaking, and he had the right for his views and his value. When I look at Charlie Kirk and I see what he thought about me as a black person, I should be still in slavery, that I don't have the mindset to process things. And then I look at minorities who honor, and I look at the mayor who honored him. So we look at things, you look at it one way and then somebody look at it the other way. But your responsibility is to look at it and make sure you view your community and how it's going to affect everyone, not just your vision and your views. And Lord knows, you look at the meeting we just had with all the military officers, and you look at that, and that's why you say, I feel that the country, we are in trouble. Thank you.
Reverend Jimmy Howard.
Reverend Howard, to the mayor and the council board members, to our friend, I come to thank the city council and those who worked with me on what they did in helping get the walk track and also the parking area in front of my barbershop upgraded to a better situation than I first had. Thank Pastor Alexander, all of you for what you did for helping me. And now at this point, I'm comfortable in what has been done. The other thing, when they put the sidewalks in our area, for some reason they didn't put back up the signs, speed signs, no parking signs, like they should have. The other thing, I am in the city limit, but I don't see the city limit sign pass at my property line. What do I do from that point to get that corrected?
William, Bill Horton, you got that?
Pardon me?
The staff member that would take care of that for you.
Um, uh,
Can you get with him? Okay, thank you.
who am I?
Him, after you get done, Pastor Howard, then he can.
Okay, and also the signs put
Yeah,
back
right.
up to
Yeah.
where they need to be, and the city limit sign at my property. Okay, again, to all the council members, thank you. I have no problem with what has been done. My heart is clear with it.
Thank you, Pastor Howard.
Virginia Street.
Good afternoon, Mayor Nelson and commissioners. On behalf of the unsheltered and the needy in Apopka, I'd just like to thank you for your continued support for what you're doing for them. We had an event last Sunday, and we had almost 80 people attend. And as they were coming in, we're just very thankful and grateful for what the city has been doing. They know that the city has been concerned about their well-being. Um, in reference to that, this fall, the temperature is changing, and we're going to be dealing with, we'll probably have a couple of situations where the temperature gets, a little chilly. And working with Matthew's Hope, the buses will not be ready by then. So I would like to be able to set up something, a a plan of how we can handle them this year, and I'd like to be a little proactive about it rather than waiting till the last minute when I make that 911 call to Mayor Nelson. I'd rather not have to do that this year. I'd like to have something already lined up and come up with a plan about how we can how we're going to approach that if it comes. So if we could work together, if you could create a group or a team or somebody to do that, I'd like to be part of that action group. October is these days run quick. So we'll be looking at Thanksgiving soon. So whatever you can do to help me do that, I'd be grateful. That's it. Thank you.
Jody, anybody else? Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Next up, let's see. Approval of minutes. We've got 3 sets of minutes. Look for a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I just got one change on the September 17th. It's just, and that's the final budget hearing. Item 2C, it said that it was a vote that was voted 4-1. It was actually 4-0 with my abstination. So I just want to make sure that's reflected properly.
Okay. Got that, Jody? Okay. With that change, motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, Radley, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, legislative update or backdate, update, whatever you'd like. We have with us a new senator, Bracy Davis, who just moved from one side of the Capitol to the other, and so we're happy to have you here with us today. So if you want to lead us out, we appreciate you coming out.
Well, good afternoon. What a delight. So, Mayor Nelson, commissioners, residents of Apopka, it's a delight to be with all of you on today. While I have often walked in parades in Apopka, attended town halls, spoke at town halls, and I joined the Apopka Progressive Seniors probably every other month, I have never had the honor, privilege, or pleasure to directly represent the people of Apopka in the Florida legislature until September 2nd. That changed everything, and I'm truly ecstatic to serve you in the Senate. So again, thank you, Mayor Nelson and the council for inviting me to share a look back at our recent legislative session and offer a preview of what's ahead in 2026. But before I get into that, let me briefly introduce myself, if you don't mind. As was mentioned, I am Senator Bracy Davis. I'm privileged to represent Florida's 15th Senate District, which includes many communities in West Orange County: Apopka, Zellwood, Ocoee, Pine Hills, Lockhart, Fairview Shores, Eatonville, Tangelo Park, and many, many more. I am a proud graduate of Dr. Phillips High School. Some of you may know me as the daughter of yes, Dr. Phillips High School, DPHS, never less than the best. Go Panthers.
Go Darters.
Okay,
It is correct. Go Darters.
okay. I am the daughter of two pillars of the community, Dr. LaVon Wright Bracy and the late Reverend Dr. Randolph Bracy Jr. They were co-founders of New Covenant Baptist Church of Orlando. I'm a licensed and barred attorney who spent time working at the Department of Children and Families, helping reunite families and support second chances. It's important to give that context so you will understand how I legislate. For the last 15 years, I worked as the Senior Director of Community Engagement at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. I also hold a bachelor degree in theater arts from Howard University, skills that I draw on when delivering my speeches that you may see online. And then also I have a JD from the inaugural class of Florida A&M University College of Law. I am joined today with my team, Savannah Pfeiffer, if you just raise your hand. And that's for the purpose I would love for Apopka to get to know my team. She joins me and comes with me to Tallahassee. And then Janae McKissick, she is my district aide, and she is the eyes and ears while I am in Tallahassee. I also have with me Representative Rashawn Young's district aide. He's with us shadowing today, and that's Jerry Owens. And so a reflection on 2025. So as I'm sure you all know and you've kept up with, that this past session was the longest in Florida's history, 105 days. Usually session is 60 days, and you know, our class was overachievers. But I need to be transparent and honest because I wouldn't be doing this office its duty if I did not say, unfortunately, in my opinion, many urgent needs of Floridians were overshadowed by debates on culture wars and engineered controversies this session. The number one issue in our district is affordability, period, full stop. That is the number one issue. That is why constituents call me, is because of affordability. And that is all across the board as it relates to groceries, as it relates to property insurance. And so I believe the constituents previously of House District 40 and Senate District 15 sent me to Tallahassee to deal with those pressing issues. So I was disappointed that we spent a lot of time distracted by fights over symbols rather than solutions and culture wars. But there were some wins this session. I'm not just the bearer of bad news, I promise you. There were some concrete wins just by my office when I was the state representative for House District 40. We were able to bring some money back for the Orlando Museum of Art, something I'm really proud of. You heard when I gave my brief bio that arts and culture is really important to me. Orlando Museum of Art has initiatives where they allow for residents of Orlando and Orange County, quite honestly, to come for free and to see their exhibits. And so we were able to bring some money to Orlando Museum of Art. My office was also able to champion some safe homes for Samaritan Village. Samaritan Village is a place where women have been trafficked, can go and find safety. And we were able to bring some money home for those safe houses, and they're built in the process of solidifying several other safe houses because of those appropriations. So those are just a few line items on paper that we were able to bring home. Some of the disappointing moments in this last session was as it relates to the Citizens-Led Ballot Initiative. I have gotten a lot of calls from my office as it relates to the Citizen-Led Ballot Initiative. We have made it harder for citizens and everyday citizens, like perhaps many of those that are sitting in the audience, to amend the Florida Constitution. And so that was disappointing. I think that all Floridians, no matter how powerful or no matter how much money you have or don't have, should be able to have this right to, if they do what the law says if they do what the law says that they should do, that they should be able to amend the Constitution. And now we've made it a lot harder. So I think that was another low moment of this legislative session. So you may ask of me, okay, the election is over, so now what's next? First and foremost, I think it was mentioned earlier today that I'm walking in the shoes of Senator Geraldine Thompson. Every time that I speak, if you've ever heard me speak publicly, I always call her name because she's done some remarkable work, and I plan to continue that legacy. Just to back up just a bit, another one of the bills that I passed last session was to rename South Street, named Senator Geraldine Thompson Way. That was something extremely important to me, and you'll be seeing that coming up on South Street right in front of the Wellsville Museum soon. So you know that Senator Thompson was a champion for voting rights. And so every year she and I together, she in the Senate, I in the House, filed the Harriet T. and Harriet B. Moore Voting Rights Act. I do plan on filing that again this year. This lays out sensible reforms like same-day voter registration, making Election Day a paid holiday, and clarifying voting rights for returning citizens. We know that when Election Day comes, oftentimes returning citizens, there's not clarity in terms of whether they can vote or whether they cannot vote. And so I promise to continue advancing that work in the election space. One of my nonpartisan initiatives that I'm really proud of is my youth conflict resolution bill. I filed this for the last 2 years. Now, how many of you all remember DARE? Okay, all right. So you remember when there would be a police officer that would come and teach you about drug abuse resistance and education on that. Well, what I want to do is champion youth conflict resolution where there is an outside voice that is teaching children how to be ambassadors of conflict resolution. And the first year that we filed it, it passed in the House. The second year that we filed it, we passed in the Senate. So hopefully this year is the year that it will pass in both the House and the Senate. We know from civics class, you got to have both for it to get over the finish line. But this has gotten nonpartisan and bipartisan, should I say, support. And what this will do is teach the children to be ambassadors of goodwill, teach the children how to de-escalate so that they can de-escalate with their peers and even at home and outside of the campus of schools. I think that's what we're missing right now. When we look at gun violence and all of that, I think we're missing those key tools of how to de-escalate. How do we take all the drama and just settle it down and kind of look at the real issues of what's going on? And so I'm prepared to champion that again. I hope that, for those that you all pray, and for those that y'all don't pray, wish me luck, whatever it is. But it's something that is really important to me and I think is important to our communities. And I'm ready for that. I also will continue to support returning citizens. That's something that's important to me as well. We know that when folks are coming out of incarceration, it's oftentimes very challenging for them, whether it be to rent a home or to get a job and so for the last 2 years, I pushed for access to SNAP and TANF funds. Many of you know or don't know that if you have been convicted of a drug trafficking offense, you can't get any SNAP or TANF funds. If you remember in my introduction, I made mention that I'm a former DCF attorney. And so what I know and what I've studied is that when women come out of incarceration and they're trying to get their children back, DCF will not give them their children back unless they have a stable home, a stable job, and a refrigerator full of food. Well, if they have a drug trafficking offense, they won't have a refrigerator full of food because they don't have access to SNAP benefits and TANF. And so I'm going to continue to champion that. I don't believe that we should be the product of our worst day. And so I'm going to continue because those that are returning citizens are still citizens and they need voices. And then finally, juvenile justice reform. I'm really thankful that last session I passed with unanimous support on in all the committees in both the Senate and the House, House Bill 1405, which restructured the Department of Juvenile Justice section. That statute for DJJ has not been touched in 30 years. So you can imagine how antiquated that statute was. So we were able, it was a 200 plus page bill, but we were able to restructure that bill and take out some things and actually put more services. I'm of the thought that children need services and not necessarily punishment. Oftentimes they need services and rehabilitation. Oftentimes children are acting out because they don't have money, they don't have food, they don't have clothes. And so we're trying to deal with some of the byproducts as we tackle the DJJ issue. And I'm thankful for the bill that we passed, and I'm really excited about working more in that space. And so in close, I'll say this to you, my promise to you, to the commissioners, and also to the citizens of Apopka, that I bring Apopka with me to Tallahassee. So when I was elected to the Tallahassee, Apopka goes with me. So I say your name on the House floor and now on the Senate floor. Your families, your neighborhoods, your hopes deserve more than rhetoric. They deserve results. So I'm deeply grateful for this invitation, the trust of this opportunity to be your voice in Tallahassee. My door is always open. That's why I brought my staff with me today. My team is ready, and I look forward to partnering with each of you. Together, we can lift communities, build bridges, and deliver results that matter. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. Representative Doug Bankson.
All right. Well, I want to first say congratulations to my colleague from this side who went over to that side. And I do want to say that your conflict resolution bill is a great bill. I will be advocating on the House side, so let's get that one through this year. This was the session that never ended. It was just one of those crazy times. I was calculating with committee weeks this week or this year, we will have been there almost 7 months in Tallahassee, and then coming back and serving here locally. So, but you know what? That's why we're there, is to get things done. And if we have to burn the midnight oil, then we need to do it. We need to do the right thing. So, one of the things that I really do love and respect is that we do respect one another. We do have deep conversation. We look beyond the divisions to look at the issue. And many times we all want to accomplish the same thing. We're just coming at it from different measures. And so it's just great to have the ability to get up, present that, and then let the decision lands where it may, as the people decide. So just to look backward before I look ahead, let me turn my notes around here. This year I was able to had 12 bills that I either sponsored or prime co-sponsored. 5 of them got across the finish line, which was in this year, it was quite a challenge. I've told people I felt a little bit like a running back in the huddle, and all of a sudden, the coach calls in a play, then the booth calls in a play, then the owner calls in a play. We're just trying to run the ball. So it was really an interesting year. But again, it's part of our process. It's better to have those challenges to make sure we get the best law. And so sometimes it does take time to move things forward, but we want to make sure we're getting the right things forward. So based upon that, I'll touch on a few. One that, of course, I've been working on hard was the legal tender bill. Happened to be Bill 999. I didn't choose that, but it works real well. This gold and silver legal tender bill, why I'm passionate about that and so glad that the governor came to sign that, is it helps the individual. If we understand our history and present fiscal situation. Of course, in 1971, the dollar was taken off of the gold standard and attached to Mideast oil. What many don't know is in 2023, that went away. And so it puts us in instability, which on the international scope, they're really trying to attack the U.S. dollar, which is the foundation of our economy. Fortunately, our founders gave us an option in the Constitution as a state that any state can declare gold and silver as legal tender. What does that really mean? Because that can sound pie in the sky. The bottom line is legal tender, your dollar bill says that. And I'll give you an illustration. They say that that gold and silver bullion has the ability to outlast recession, to go past inflation. And so for the individual to have that ability to build their portfolio, that's something that was important to me. So in 1979, if you bought a home, 79, if you bought a home, the average home was $75,000. If you bought the same home today, it would be $531,000, or last year when we were looking at the records. If you bought it in gold in 1979, it would have been 268 ounces. If you bought the same home today, it would be 268 ounces. So it's held its buying power. So what is the difference? If you do want to see people get ahead, the bottom line is there's a capital gains tax. If you do get precious metals, you have to convert them to currency to be able to use them. This bill now creates this opportunity that out of your account, this can be spent as currency. So it frees us from the penalty of capital gains as long as we're not doing money trading. So it gives the individual the buying power. And the second bill, one of the other bills that I passed, was to remove what I thought was a punitive tax against anyone who purchased gold and silver under $500 was taxed. If you purchased over that amount, you were not taxed. I thought, well, don't we need to help the little guy more than anyone else? So what this does is make a way for anyone, anywhere. If you have an extra $10, rather than just throwing it on a lotto chance, you can actually build a portfolio. So what this will do, we're still in the process of moving it forward, but by the end or by July 2026, this will go into play. We're going to ratify the rules that they just discussed in Tallahassee yesterday. And so we'll ratify those this fall. So it gives the individual the ability to have an account that they can use debit to access that, then it is a cash transaction. So now you can save more of that gold and silver, which gives you a longer term support. and yet not penalizing you as a capital gain. So anyway, I'm happy to talk about that with anyone else that wants to. Let's see, another one, the tag flipping bill. I always try and save at least a bill for our law enforcement to make sure that we're doing things that matter back home. And one of the things that was brought to me was what we call the tag flipping bill. And again, I didn't even know this existed until they brought us. The Florida Sheriff Association made this a priority and approached me and asked me to carry this bill. The bottom line is there are those who, when they go through the toll booths, some have a cable literally on their tag, their license plate, that they pull up so that it skips them having to pay what the rest of us are paying. There are other things that occlude that you can see it from straight on, but you can't see it from the angle. So the purpose is to not pay. Basically, that gives them more enforcement ability. But what it also does is anyone who does this in committing a crime, it now bumps it up to a felony. Because if you have gone, let's say you rob a bank, you are going through and you're eluding the arrest by hiding your tag, then you're taking away a tool that law enforcement has to be able to do that. Or say someone is murdered, the same thing. So it bumps up the penalties for that. And so that's something that I think will serve us well. It also deals with those who use lights, whether it's red, white, or blue lights, to basically to try and pull people over, masquerading as law enforcement or even fire. Basically, then there are people, I don't want my daughter being pulled over by someone who has evil intent. So this puts real protection for the citizens so that we can trust those who need to either get through or pull us over for anything. Let me jump. By the way, Nicole Kennedy, my legislative aide, is right here, and you all are very familiar with her. I know we kind of pulled you away, but she is the right half of my brain. The left half is over at the office right now. And so anyway, I'm just thankful for both of them. They do a tremendous job. And I constantly get just good reports from other legislators about Nicole's service. I just like to publicly say that because they do so much work behind the scenes, and we really appreciate our aides. Let's see. Let me jump on through here. Fentanyl testing bill. I was able to work across the aisle with Representative Harris. We were both approached with this, and when I reached out, she had already responded, and so we came together and were able to pass this. The bottom line is there are people dying from fentanyl that they don't know it's in there. If they go to the hospital, let's say they had some other drug issue, they test them for that issue. Well, Gage, we called it Gage's Law, and Gage actually went to the hospital, was tested, and sent back home, and he ended up dying because they didn't know there was fentanyl. So what this does is make sure any drug-related issue that goes to our hospitals, they will now test. And it's an inexpensive test, but the bottom line is they will test for this deadly fentanyl. And so that kind of leads to one of the priorities for next year. There's a xylazine bill. And I prime co-sponsored that this year. I'm going to be taking the lead on that this next session. What xylazine does, it's actually a horse tranquilizer, but it is evil beyond evil, because one of the things it does, when they now mix this in, if someone has taken fentanyl, we know that our law enforcement, our first responders have, what's the drug? Narcan, thank you, the street name. But this actually removes the ability of Narcan to stop fentanyl from killing people. I mean, that's just insidious evil. It's also, it's a flesh-eating drug that it's a horrible thing. So what we worked on it this year, we basically have aligned the penalties with cocaine versus fentanyl because there was some of the issues on the Senate side. That's why it didn't move forward. So we really believe we have a winning move this year to go forward with that. As far as the appropriations, let me go back and touch on those. I'm just really grateful for that. We were able to bring, actually over the last 3 years, I've been able to bring back $22 million to our district. A lot of that is for our Lake Apopka. Again, I grew up in Southern California, and water is a very important issue there. And we want to make sure that here in the state of Florida, we protect that as we continue to grow. So we'll always stand with that and support that. Let me find my list here because it's kind of spread out. So we did this year specifically go for $10 million. We were able to bring back $7.1 million back to the district. Of course, one of those was the asbestos pipe replacement, which is so important for the city of Apopka. Let me pull out my arm extenders. I found I need these more. The Northwest Orange County Fire EMS Program of Study, we were able to move forward with that. Let me just jump through. And Nicole, we need to just get these in bullet lists next time. That'll help. Persons with disabilities improve nutrition kitchen. I am so happy about this one. This is our Camp Thunderbird for Quest for those our developmentally challenged adults. Their kitchen was in desperate need. We fought last time for it, and it got turned down. I just boggled my mind, and so we went back to that again, and we were able to do that. And so that's just a tremendous win. The STEPS program for women residential integrated treatment services, we were able to bring in $500,000 to support that. They're doing a tremendous job helping our women and our young ladies who are going back through treatment programs and to help support them. Child trafficking screening tool, the Lifeboat Project was something we pressed toward. Also for Winter Garden, the Crest Avenue wastewater treatment facility capacity expansion and process optimization. We were able to get $1.75 million on that. And that again helps us to keep Lake Apopka clean and coming back. We know this was one of the leading clear water fishing lakes in the nation in the 50s. And we lost that. Now we can look back and say, okay, maybe there's some things we shouldn't do. That's the way that law is sometimes. You pass a law with good intention, but then it doesn't always accomplish what you want. So thankfully, the legislature back in the 80s bought up the muck lands. We know about all of that because it's affected us here in Apopka and our history, but we are seeing the lake come back. And that's something that I will constantly fight for. I think that's so important to get that for our children and those who follow us. Again, there's more. Let me just skip on here. Let me go on to moving forward. Another bill that I'll be running. Oh, one of the bills was the vertiports bill, which again, that's the vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. I just heard last night a report that within 18 months, we should begin to see this operational in the city of Tampa, in their airport, in their space. But this was part of the bigger transportation bill, and I prime co-sponsored that one. And so we were able to get that across the finish line. I think we'll see the effects of that as we go forward. Right now, it's more informational for folks, but we're putting the infrastructure together for that, and I'm very excited about that. But we were able to bring $12 billion statewide for transportation needs. We know in Central Florida, that's a frustration. The more people that move here, you get different numbers between 800 and 1,000 people a day moving into the region. That affects our roadways, which is part of why vertiports are an important thing in the future. But aside from that, having the money to be able to work on our transportation needs. And so that's something that I'll continue to stand for. Let me just jump on over to a couple other things. An ADSB program is something very important for aviation. Aviation is one of our biggest industries. Usually the bills that I press for, there's a bigger reason. I want to make sure we have jobs for our children. I want to make sure we're making an inviting, industry-inviting environment to bring industry here. And so with aviation, we are a world leader in that, but there's an ADSB technology that can threaten that and really hurt general aviation. It really killed it in Europe already, and it's threatening some things here, again, without taking more time. That's something that I think is really important because it will affect a lot of jobs and something that Florida really is a leader in. Let me go ahead and talk about two very important things. Of course, was mentioned our property insurance. And that's something that's one of the main reasons I really want to go up there because, too often we have heard the horror stories. Mine went from 3,000 some to 15,000 and then had to fight, and now it's coming back down. I had to make a stand this year, and leadership was really pushing us toward a bill, and I had to just say, Speaker, this is something that I feel passionate about. I thought I was going to kind of get put to the back of the room, but he said, if you're doing this based on principle, then you stand on your principle. So I appreciated the fact that they allow us to stand for these things. But the good news is with our insurance needs, we now have 17 new companies that have come back into the state. We're beginning to see the crest and beginning to see those come down. I encourage you, if your rates are still high, shop those rates because there's a lot of opportunity and there are many companies that are now, you're seeing those rates come down quite a bit. So we had a 2-year stint where there were so many lawsuits, we had to wait for those to play out. So it looked like nothing happened, and it was frustrating to people, and I understand that. But now those have really played out. Now we see what we did a couple years back beginning to have its effect. And I sat with the commissioner, and I just asked him about our industry. Again, we don't want to miss it on either side of the ditch with that. But the bottom line is said, please stay with us. He talked to us, please stay with this because it is working and is bringing back the competition that will bring those prices down. So that's good news. Of course, because of the cost of things skyrocketing, it will cost more because it costs more to replace it. But we're seeing the bigger issue begin to be curbed. The other thing is property taxes. And this is something that I immediately went to the speaker when he announced the special committee, and I asked to be upon that because that's an important thing, especially for our seniors. It grieves my heart when I have someone sit in my office and say, you know what, I did everything right. I worked hard. I bought my home. I paid it off. Now I'm in my senior years. I wanted to retire here and stay here, pass this along to my heirs. And now, because of these issues, I cannot afford to stay there. But the other side of that is I sat in the seat where you sit, and I know what we need on the local level. So my approach to this has been not to remove, but replace. We have to find a way that we're not taking away or pulling the rug out from under the municipalities that still have to pay for things. Otherwise, it's just taking the hand out of my right pocket and stick it in my left. So that doesn't really help us. There are some tremendous things that are going forward and beginning to work their way through a couple of different bills and angles from Chamberlain and Sapp are finding ways to bring a replacement for that. Now, initially they were saying that they were going to just do that with sales tax. I was really against that. We can't just flip it there because that can hurt us in other ways. We can maybe see a little bump there, but we've got to find other ways. And so I've talked with all the different municipalities in the district. Everyone has said the same thing. We're not against this as long as we can find a way to replace it. So that's what Tallahassee is doing. Not simply to pull the rug out or score political points. We've got to make sure that we're doing this, that it affects the citizens in the right way and helps the municipalities, deal with that. And I know there's one issue that's come up, Senate Bill 180. And for me, I've not had anyone in the district call or write me about that one. Have had a couple that came from outside of the district, but of course, just here recently, suddenly there's become a firestorm. I know Orange County has joined a lawsuit on that. DeCiglia is the senator that passed that. He's already said, you know what, like any bill, sometimes we see things that need to be tweaked. So I believe there's already the opening there to look at that and make sure the unintended consequences get dealt with. So that's where, again, I'm leaning on you at the local level to let me know, how does this really affect us in the real world? Rubber meets the road. And then we can go and try and work on that. It was intended, of course, to protect the individual after a storm. And that's the challenge. You know, I love home rule. I believe that in the 60s, they got it right. In 1968, they passed that. The problem is what happens when the individual's rights are overwhelmed at the local level. And so just wrestling between those things. When do we need to stand for the individual? When do we need to stand for the local level? What should be preempted? There are some people who just love preemption. To me, I'd rather leave things closest to the people as long as we can, unless there's an overriding issue that is absolutely, taking away the rights of an individual against the whole. So that was the initial beginning of that. I have a lot more information, but I've gone way over time. Again, being a pastor and a politician, sometimes you got to get out the hook. It's interesting. I guess my cult status is growing here. If you're not getting attacked, sometimes it means you're not doing anything. Bottom line is we're working very hard. We're working together to get things done. I'm really excited what we've done, and I'm ready to roll up the sleeves and get to work. We are going next week and starting again. So thank you all.
Thank you both for coming. Appreciate it. Just a couple quick things. I've got a packet for both of you. We've got rejected on our comprehensive plan from Florida Commerce, and the biggest in 180 Senate Bill 180. I guess the biggest heartburn we have with it, and it's in section 28. Let me just read it. It says, in any such moratorium or restrictive or burdensome comprehensive plan amendment, land development regulation or procedure shall be null and void. The subsection applies retroactively to August 1st, 2024. So restrictive or burdensome is a real problem because, anybody can, make up what that means to them. And so we just, if we could take a look at those two words and then also retroactive back to August 1st, 2024 would be very helpful in helping local governments. We just had a luncheon just a few minutes ago, and we had Winter Garden, Ocoee, Windermere, and Oakland, and all stand kind of that. If we can at least get that fixed, that would be a great help. And then on the property tax and the replacement, we're just asking for 100%. We don't, what we don't want to do is get up there and we cut it. Well, local governments can do on 90% of what their income is now. We need 100%, and we're happy to open up our book, show you where we're spending the money. But be careful, as I served in in 08 and 09, I can tell you when the economy falls off the cliff and sales tax plummets, it really starts to hurt local governments. And so whereas property tax is pretty flat, I mean, it's always going up a little bit. Sales tax can go up and it can go down in a big way. So just as you look at sales tax as a replacement, be sure we got some stopgaps in there that will make sure that we're protected, because the last thing we need to do is try to cut our budget 10-15% to meet the sales tax that we're now counting on in our budget. So those are, I think, the two big takeaways we'd like to at least share with you. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has anything else, but those are two that are important to, I think, all municipalities. This is not just City of Apopka, but we appreciate what y'all do, and we appreciate we'll be looking forward to seeing you, and we'll be up there on the 14th, and so hopefully maybe I'll run into you both. And thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Just a little bit to that. What's being looked at is not all property tax; it is homeowners. That ad valorem. Right now, statewide, it's 35%. The problem is that's not equal in every area. So one city, Altamont, only depends on 3%. Longwood depends on 54%. Some of the rural districts depend upon 100%. So SAP's plan is a 10-year plan. If it works, there's a lot of other places where that money is being replaced. So it's not the rug out from under. It's time to get that turnaround. But exactly what you've said, if there's grants, we need to make sure they're assured, and nobody can play politics with that. And then also other sources that it won't come away from the local area. So
Thank you. Are y'all gonna stay, or I don't know if you're.
Mayor, can you give us that?
I'll get you. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got consent agenda. 5 consent agenda items. Anybody need to, either from the public or the dais, need to pull any of the 5 consent agenda items? If not, look for motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next up, Bobby, Joint Planning Area Agreement, JPA, the 4th Amendment.
Good afternoon, Bobby Howell, Planning Manager. Back in July 2nd, staff came to the City Council and was given direction by the City Council to enter into a 2-year extension for the JPA between Orange County and the city of Apopka. The 4th Amendment proposes a 2-year extension to allow renegotiation of the terms of the JPA. The County Commission, as my understanding, will consider this at the October 14th BCC meeting. With that, I'll take any questions.
I guess we can't. Chair's not here to recognize anybody, so I will lead with it, though. The joint planning agreement itself, it does state in there that if we don't provide a 180-day notice, one way or the other, it just automatically renews for 5 years. So that would have been July 4th. We didn't offer that. So what is, I guess, contractually, how does that still move forward if we didn't give proper notice in time?
So if this amendment isn't approved today, it would have to be approved here by the City Council and then by the BCC, the Orange County BCC. Orange County is the one that actually drafted this agreement that you have before you to allow the 2-year extension. So if it doesn't get approved by either our City Council or by the BCC, it extends on for 5 more years, the existing JPA.
Okay, so there's still a potential that takes place from there.
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess, what are the goals of the JPA itself? What are we trying to negotiate out versus in? And I would have asked these yesterday, but I know you weren't in my meeting there, so let's get
So the terms of the JPA, it goes back to 2004, and it was a 21-year agreement, and it was a settlement agreement between the city and the county. The city was sued over numerous issues, I believe, related to annexations, is what my understanding is. The JPA, if we met with the county staff back in early September, I believe it was, to have our initial discussions on the modification of the JPA. A couple of things came out of that. We'd keep the existing boundaries. We'd require clustering in the Wekiva protection area. Currently, you have a density cap at 1 unit per 5 acres. We would allow clustering at 2 units an acre, but you have to preserve environmentally sensitive areas, a ton of open space. We create a separate section for transportation, address ISBAs, and that was brought up before the council before in our local service boundary agreements, which allow extra non-contiguous annexations in places that are in with our utility service areas. And we create sections the new agreement would have a new period of 5 years as opposed to a 21-year agreement with a 90-day opt-out clause as opposed to a 6-month opt-out clause.
And then with the changes to the distances from certain watershed areas or protected areas, I know our comp plan was kicked back due to some of those restrictions. With this JPA, although it's not with the state, it's between two municipalities. Does SB 180 come into play there too, that we're agreeing to these measures, these potentially restrictive?
Well, we would be in a negotiation period with the county currently to renegotiate the terms of the JPA. Really depends on what the definition of burdensome is.
Right.
And
but I think anybody can say anything is burdensome.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's my concern, I guess, is does this get us in trouble at all? Or do we start opening ourselves up to any liability issues?
If somebody challenged it, if a private party challenged it.
That's the same thing with anything that we're doing, I guess,
Correct.
at this point.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, anybody could challenge it. When our comp plan was kicked back from the state, it was deemed null and void because it was restrictive and burdensome. The person I spoke to at Florida Commerce literally told me that you might get a different reviewer next time. You might get a different answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in reference to this specifically, it's Exhibit A within the current JPA itself agreement. It kind of dictates and outlines a South Apopka annexation map effectively. So the boundaries. So I know that in the past we've discussed kind of where those boundaries go, things of that nature. Because we're agreeing to this, or currently the agreement is in place of those being the boundaries, should we put South Apopka annexation onto a ballot, we would have to stick to these boundaries, correct?
We discussed that with the county when we had our initial meeting with them. We talked about the terms, addressing the annexation of South Apopka. That'd be something we'd look at incorporating into the new agreement, depending on what the outcome of the referendum is.
Okay, so, well, I guess that's an additional question then. Are we putting this on the ballot? South Apopka annexation?
Well, we're looking at the first thing we're doing, Blanche, is
Feasibility.
yes, study. Yes.
Can you come to the mic, please, just so everybody can hear you?
Yeah. The first step, as discussed at this council previously, is to begin to do the feasibility study. That solicitation has been released. At the same time, we are supposed to be undergoing a survey out to either the South Apopka residents or the entire city. But the timeline within the solicitation is to meet the deadline for the March election.
So if we haven't gotten any response, I guess when did that go out, that solicitation?
I think this past Sunday or so. It just went out.
On Sunday. Okay. And then when is that due by? When are bids due
I
back?
can get you that timeline. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay. Then from there, what if nobody says they can meet that deadline? The deadline that you're saying what needs to be done by?
And we won't know it until we complete this process.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we still going to move forward with the feasibility study if they can't meet that deadline or timeline that we're?
That would have to come back to council for discussion and decision.
Okay. And then when is that due back by then? What's their deadline that they would have to get that feasibility study back to us?
Again, I'll get you that timeline. I don't have it off the top of my head. But we had a critical event schedule prepared, and that's a part of the solicitation, and I will share that with you.
Okay. That'd be valuable. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, Bobby, again, thank you. For that, the South Apopka annexation, the fact that it was referenced in the JP, I think is just so telling that of how long we've been discussing this as a city and going through this. So it's, I want to make sure that it's handled properly throughout our negotiations. And obviously it's been, the map has been dictated here very specifically. So I just want to make sure we take that into account. So once the 2-year deadline ends, will we do a new agreement before then? Is that the goal?
That's the goal, is to have the new agreement in place prior to December 31st, 2027.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't need to wait till that deadline. Hopefully we'll not be
Hopefully
there.
we'll be done by this.
Does Orange County seem amiable to changes, provisions, updates, negotiations?
Staff members we met with seemed very agreeable to what we talked about, although, you know, they have to kick it up higher up the chain.
Sure. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bobby?
Yes. Previously, in the agreement, it said if the city annexed 50% of the property on either side of the road, that we had to automatically accept the road without the county making a contribution to upgrading the road. Is that going to be addressed in this amendment?
We're going to cover transportation issues, and that could be something we could talk about if you want us to. It's
Yes.
your direction. Yes.
Please.
Commissioner Velasquez?
No question.
Commissioner Anderson?
No question.
Okay.
But thank you, Radley, for the detailed email. Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve the Fourth Amendment to the Joint Planning Area Agreement.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Utility Upsize Agreement, Ondich South. Vladimir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor, Commissioner, Vladimir Simonovsky, Public Works Director. What we're bringing to you today is the utility upsize agreement for Ondich South subdivision. And basically, in summary, Pulte Home LLC Ondich South project intends to construct 16-inch water main, 12-inch sanitary force main, and a 16-inch reclaim water main along Effie Drive from West Kelly Park Road to the Ondich South subdivision. This is the one we discussed a few months ago. Some of the commissioners were asking who's going to extend the utilities along Effie Drive. So this is the first development that is coming in, and they're extending it all the way to their entrance, and it's going to be just north of the future entrance to the Orlando Health Hospital on the west side. So while the project only requires an 8-inch water main, 6-inch sanitary force main, and a 6-inch reclaim water main to serve its immediate needs, the city has requested a 16-inch water main, 12-inch sanitary force main, and a 16-inch reclaim water main instead to accommodate for future regional development as outlined in the city's utility master plans. The utility upsize agreement reimburses Pulte Home Company LLC for the material-only cost difference between the smaller utility required for their project and the larger infrastructure requested by the city to serve anticipated future development. The engineer's opinion of probable cost is included in Exhibit C in your packet, which is a total of $800,018 and $111.56. The funding source is coming from the Water, Wastewater, and Reuse Impact Fee Fund, and this is important. We had this discussion during the budget, what comes from the operating fund, what comes from the Impact Fee Fund. So these are new utilities. Basically, everything is being funded by the new development. Nothing is funded through the utility rates that is affecting the existing customers. So by that being said, staff recommends the City Council authorize City Administration to execute the utility upsize agreement with Pulte Home Company LLC for the Ondich South development.
Any questions for Vlad? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one?
Albert McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. I'm glad tonight that we seem to be a little bit more certain about where funds are coming from, because there was some opinions that weren't correct on Monday night about where funds were coming from general funds or impact fees. So I would agree that these are impact fee funds, but the question arises, if we are planning on increasing and doubling the size of those pipes, does that mean that it's our intention to double housing developments along that road in that area? Because we at Ondich, at the end of Ondich, are basically at the limits of the KPI. So that if we were to go down the road of having fairly increased development further than that, it would be outside the KPI. So are we advocating at some stage or other that we're going to increase the KPI? Because if we're not, what's the necessity for it? The other thing is you're asking for increased capacity. You can't supply the demand just now. You're not going to be able to supply that demand until at least 2030, in my opinion. So is it pertinent to spend $8 million just now? It probably is. But the fact of the matter is, this commission and this city really needs to get a hand on development. They need to get a hand on the understanding of what the public feelings are. And it needs to be interpreted that we don't want any more development.
Anybody else from the public? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve the utility upsize agreement for Ondich South.
So moved.
Got a
One
motion?
quick, just to clarify, it's the total amount that we're asking for, dollar-wise?
It's $820,000 roughly, and this is for all three utilities, basically water, sewer, and reclaimed water.
Okay, I see.
Of-
Okay,
yes,
818,000.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
And that's only the cost difference in the material.
that incremental
Yes,
difference.
because that's also per our land development code. It's actually section 5.14.1 D, which is for water and sewer main extensions for master plan facilities. Just to clarify, the KPI is not going to be changed. These sizes are basically per the utility master plan for both, actually for all three utilities, for water, reclaimed water, and the sewer. And they're developed in 2019. We're currently working on updating our master plan. We don't expect any changes there, and everything was developed for the sizes that we're putting right now. They're based on the build-out conditions for the entire area, considering the density that is projected.
So built as if what we've already approved or expecting as density will be built out.
Correct.
As if. Okay.
Correct.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Look for a motion to approve the utility upsize agreement for Ondich South.
So
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, authorization for street closure for Apopka High School and Wekiva High School Band Showcase.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight, or this afternoon, to get the authorization for the street closure for the Apopka High School and Wekiva High School Band Showcase. The street closure is requested for a city-led event for the Apopka High School and Wekiva High School Marching Band Showcase. The event date requested is October 4th, and the requested street closure is on 5th Street from Park to Central Avenue with access to the 5th Street parking lot. Road closure to begin at 4:30, October 4th, 2025, and will reopen at 10 p.m. the same night. The event is a fundraiser to help Apopka High School raise funds to participate in the parade that they're going to London, England, and Wekiva High School to participate in the Sugar Bowl parade in Louisiana. The event has been developed and reviewed by staff, including the police department and our fire department, and is recommended for approval. The item is being brought for you this afternoon to get a recommendation to close the streets.
Okay, any questions for Cindy?
I did have a couple questions. Thank you.
Sure.
And I missed you yesterday too at my interview, so sorry about that.
That's okay.
It wasn't able to ask questions there, so or specifically to you for these. So the picture that's shown here is slightly smaller than what is, I guess, in the packet. Was it updated in the packet?
Yes, it was. And we
Okay.
did that because we have an event at the Apopka Community Center. So we're going to block the central side, and we have spoken to the renter for the Apopka Community Center, and they're going to use the entrance off of Washington for that rental, and then use the overflow in the grass area to accommodate their rental. And then on the other side of Central, we pushed it in a little bit because we're going to have the bands actually will be in the street, obviously with enough room for emergency services to get by. So that's the reason it's kind of shifted over a little bit to the left.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it's a city ran event?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is it our insurance that's covering this, or I guess how's that
Yes.
work?
Yes, sir. Our event will be covering it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Our insurance will be covering it.
Yes.
Okay. Got that. And then do we have any vendors that are going to be on site?
The only one that I know of right now, because it was kind of a last minute thing, is we are going to have a face painter there. But other than that, this is strictly a fundraiser for the bands, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, look for a motion to approve the street closure for Apopka High School and Wekiva High School.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 3119, second reading. Any changes?
No changes.
No changes. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve or adopt ordinance number 3119.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 3120. Any changes?
No changes.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go back. I am so sorry. I am getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You need to, let's go back to ordinance 3119. Sorry about that.
To read it. And we have to have public comment.
Ordinance number 3119, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from County Industrial to City Industrial for property owned by MG88 Central Florida Cold Storage 2 LLC located at 2424 and 2428 West Orange Blossom Trail, comprising 0.38 acres, more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay. Any changes?
No changes.
No changes. All right. Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? Not close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 3119.
So moved.
So motion. Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Smith was the one who went second.
It was?
Yeah.
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 3120.
Ordinance number 3120, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from transitional to IL light industrial for property located at 2424 and 2428 West Orange Blossom Trail, owned by MG88 Central Florida Cold Storage 2 LLC, comprising of 0.38 acres, more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Any changes?
No changes.
Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 3120.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Vasquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 3121.
Ordinance number 3121, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from residential medium to mixed use for property located at 155 MA Board Street, owned by Magic Houses LLC, comprising 0.27 acres, more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Good afternoon. This is Jun Son, planner at the Community Development Department. The applicant has requested a small-scale future land use amendment for the property located at 155 MA Board Street from residential medium to mixed use. The size of the property is 0.27 acres and the site is currently vacant. The current future land use is residential medium, allowing maximum 10 dwelling units per acre, and the requested zoning is mixed use, allowing 15 dwelling units per acre. The property is located within mixed use downtown zoning district, and the amending the future land use to mixed use will make its future land use consistent with its zoning purpose. Per the Land Development Code Appendix F Downtown Area Map, 155 MA Board is within CRA Overlay District, and per Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element Policy 3.1.R, areas within the CRA shall be allowed to have mixed-use design. Shall be allowed to have mixed-use future land use to encourage innovative land use techniques, creative urban design, environmental protections, and the use of the sustainable development principles and practices. In addition, per Land Development Code 3.6.3, mixed-use downtown zoning, which is currently zoning of the property, subject property, one of the purpose of this zoning is higher density residential development, and it states the townhome dwellings. As you can see there, conceptual plan, the purpose of future land use amendment is for the development of townhome for 3 units, and without changing future land use, townhome cannot be permitted due to density limitation. The DRC has recommended approval, and the Planning Commission has unanimously recommended approval of amending future land use from residential medium to mixed use. The recommended motion is to accept the first reading of Ordinance 3121 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on October 15, 2025. Staff and applicant are available to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for June for this item?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioners.
And explain again why with the current zoning, they cannot build the townhomes?
So, so our recommendation on future land use change is based on the comprehensive plan and then also the zoning. Meanwhile, so right now it has a future land use allowing 10 dwelling units per acre because of the size of the property. It only allows 2 dwelling units per acre, which means duplex. With the current zoning, duplex is not permitted use. Meanwhile, as you can see, this is future mixed use downtown. Our land development code encourages higher density residential with a townhome dwelling. If we change the future land use to mixed use, then it allows to meet the purpose of mixed use downtown. So and it allows to have higher density. So with current future land use, it only allows to build one single family house detached.
Okay, now, okay, so this lot is what, 52 feet wide?
Wide.
Or 65?
I think it's 65.
Okay, so 65 feet wide.
So this is just a conceptual plan that we received during the informational meeting. This is not final plan they submitted. And as I understanding, the developer was worked on the fire chief and other with us to meet the code requirements and all the requirements that has to be meet their future land development code. So I present this conceptual plan because to show that this is for the townhome with the 3 units.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Well, I had some concerns because the parcel is small. I actually have the notes from the planning and zoning. A mixed use would give 15 units.
Yes.
Per acre.
15
Right.
units
Yeah.
per acre. 15 dwelling units per acre.
But this is 0.27 acres.
Yes. So meaning that if we change the future lands to mixed use, it will allow maximum 4 dwelling units per acre, based on calculation with the new with the 15 dwelling units per acre, and then the developer has proposed that their intention is 3 units for the over the townhome.
Would they be building townhomes there?
If they change the future land use, yes.
And if they leave it as is, what can they build there?
They can only build 1 single family house.
They can only build 1 family.
Yes, because with the size of the land, with current future land use density, which is 2 dwelling unit per acre, it allows 2 units on this property. However, townhome is not permitted in mixed use downtown area.
So now the surrounding area around there, they're all single family homes.
Well, based on site visit, the properties next to it was vacant, but there are some single family houses.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Even the way the parcel is kind of awkward.
Throw some townhomes in there.
Why don't we, got some more questions. I know that the applicant's here. If you want to maybe, we can direct the questions to the applicant maybe.
Yeah.
Is that, okay. And name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Commissioners. My name is Magno. I'm representing here Magic Houses LLC. We are the applicant of this process. We are a real estate development company that work here in Apopka since 2018, and we are always committed to provide to the city the best quality final product that we can in the houses that we build. And like we are planning to do in this area uh, 3 townhomes of 2,400 square feet each one, with 2 stories, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 car garages, and as I said, always committed to our DNA that is to provide the best quality that we can for the area. Also, I wanted to highlight that we worked together was our colleague said here with the Apopka Beauty Department here to comply with all the regulations, all the rules that we have in the code, and including the density that it says that the the density is 15 units per acre, and therefore we are complying with this point. Moreover, it's not just the density, but we discussed all other points revolving the code, and we are, was our colleague said here, we like comply with all this, and therefore, honorable ladies and gentlemen, I would like to be open to answer any questions from you, but also with the assistance of the colleague that presented before me. And finally, I just wanted to end this quickly presentation to say that we would be honored to continue to work here, providing to the city of Apopka the high quality houses and townhomes, in this case, for all the citizens, and to contribute to the economic and social development of the area. Thank you.
You finished.
Go ahead.
Okay. What are the price point for these townhomes?
Hmm?
The price points for the townhomes?
I would like, yeah. So we didn't discuss it yet, but we are planning to do competitive prices, and that is suitable to the area, and in the same time, but at the same point to make it high quality there, uh, in comparing to the area and to the all the other buildings that we worked in the past.
You know what I didn't get is that do we provide sewer in that area?
Everybody does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to point out one thing, that this is within CRA district, and our comprehensive plan uh, says mixed use shall be allowed in CRA district. But this is legislative item, so decision is up to city council.
Dr. June, would I ask you if you could just speak louder?
I'm sorry. So this is within CRA overlay district, and then our comprehensive plan says mixed use shall be allowed in CRA overlay district. But this is legislative item, so decision is up to city council.
So,
Go ahead.
my concern is, are there any other townhomes around this parcel?
1 block over.
One block over?
To the west.
Because we don't want to like a
Well, and to the east as well. I don't know if they're town, but they're duplexes or kind of multifamily properties.
yeah, to the
Let me ask you, prior to this project being presented, did someone else apply to have a single family home built there and was denied?
Not that I didn't have a project that regarding the single family house on this property on in mixed use downtown area, but I would like to defer that question to planning manager.
I'm not aware of anybody applying for a building permit for a house on that property.
Okay.
Any other questions for either June or for the applicant?
Well, we are trying to encourage housing in that area in the CRA. My only concern is, is it
building 3 townhouses, that they don't become rentals and that they become home ownership. I'm thinking ahead, but that area around there is all home ownership and they're all single families.
I'll defer that question to the applicant.
Goal is for them to maximize the profit. So.
Our purpose on our development is to commit with the selling of the ownership and not to buy to construct any rental property there.
Okay.
It's only for sale.
We want to encourage in that area.
I think that's what they're, that's.
Okay.
All right, everybody good? Okay, all right, open up to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak?
McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. It's good that we're looking to sell these houses and have home ownership. But the mere fact that a developer says he's going to sell it doesn't preclude someone coming in and purchasing it, or purchasing 3 homes and then renting them out. So when we have developments that we want to be protective over, is there any way we can enter into caveat with the developer that it's in their contract that the home, if it's sold, cannot then be resold for rental?
Anybody else?
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. This brings up just a ton of questions. First, you've been much better at producing and showing the number of acres for each one, because what I thought I heard earlier was 2.7 acres. Now I hear 0.17 acres. I've asked to have it on the agenda so you can look at it. As you recall, last meeting's was 485 pages. Not many people make it through that. It makes you out of a hunt and peck. Today I didn't have the chance, or this week having the chance to dive into it. Raises other questions. First of all, it's single family property around there. How could we have 10 dwellings per unit per acre on it and moving it to 15? We have to take a good look at our comprehensive plan. Is it accurate? The fact that if I had a single family home, which most of these are here, and I see 2 or 3 stories going up next to me, because to get 15 per unit, you're talking about going up, not out. What is it going to look like from outside my home? Let's see. Acres got that? No, I covered my points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvester Hall, I only have a few things. One, I'm concerned about we don't have the price. What are we going to be trying to sell them or rent them for? So I think, that need to be forthcoming. And then also, when we look at the CRA zone, the CRA map, keep in mind for moving forward in the future, that area is zoned that way because of certain poverty, you may have it. So when we are doing anything in that area, and we're trying to do what's best for the city and moving forward and change the culture and the environment, it's critical that when we build for prosperity, not to keep the area in poverty, and not for improvement for 5 or 6 years, and then we're right back into the recycling generation of poverty. So when we build in that area, let's look at building for prosperity, and let's look at building for some place that you and I would want to come and live. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Was the prior speaker said, I just wanted to highlight that is in our DNA to not build only with just low quality, but is with a high quality. Like we built here for 8 years, and we never have any complaint from the buyers. And in fact, all of them said that all the finishings, all the structure is amazing. and because of it, I wanted to highlight it. And we are directly aligned with our former speaker said that we build and build and we continue building unities for prosperity, not only for the inhabitants, for the homeowners of the unities, but to the whole area that we are building and to the whole city of Apopka. Thank you.
My name is Arnaldo. Ladies and gentlemen. Magnum is my partner, a Magic House. So I just briefly speak about the company. So if you're looking the product we are building right now, you just go to the 10th Street and you build the 3 houses right there. If you go inside the house and see the quality we are developed and the place, everybody knows about the 10th Street. So we develop and we build there when people doesn't believe that. So we deliver, I think, one of the best product in the area because we believe in that area. So we bring and develop not just for a month, for a year or nothing. So we have more than 10 properties ahead and projects coming forward. So this is one of the other properties coming soon. However, to build, if you're looking around this block, you can see the type of the houses. That, of course, it's a single family house for sure. But looking around, look at the type of house. So we try to improve the value, try to bring more quality for this neighborhood. So if you're building just one house, if it's allowed, it's going to cost way more for someone else in the neighborhood want to buy a better house to live, buy a better house to create their family. So as soon as we build a 3-town our cost is going to be way lower. About the price wise, we cannot tell right now because everybody knows what's going on for now. The tariffs, everything is going on. But if you're talking about, it's not a commitment, but I would say it nowadays, if based upon the former prices, that house is going to be like a 330, 340. So it's very doable. You can buy the two-car garage, 4-bed, 2,400 square footage with the quality of the Magic House products. You can go on the 10th Street. Everybody's invited to go inside the house. We have open house Monday to Friday and see the quality of the countertops, the quality of insulations. Everything is well designed and well made. So that's the product we would like to deliver on the AMA board because we believe that neighborhood deserves this kind of product. And they might not be able or may not be willing to pay 450 whatever amount of this house. So if this great commission and the public allowed us to build, I promise you, you're going to develop a nice product, and every people who lives in that street, you're going to be proud to have this development as a neighborhood. So
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I know we had some discussions and questions. So what's the pleasure of the board on this one?
Well, I think it matches with kind of the CRA's goal it was designed to uplift the community, and in projects like this, as long as it's what is described here, that's the goal, is to kind of infill, which is what one of these sites are, this specific site is to kind of infill the area and start bringing more homes into the area, which creates more community as well. But really the goal of like a CRA as well is to have government kind of make sure that any investments they have there, sidewalks, streets, street signs, parks, are kept up as well. And that's the goal here, is to make sure that we hold developers' feet to the fire, but we also hold our own feet to the fire of maintaining, preserving the assets, streets, roads, sidewalks, parks that we have as well in that area. So I think this matches with what the goal of a CRA is. And again, it's that balance of making sure we're not gentrifying the area either. We don't want to kick out the multi-generational residents that have built their lives there as well. So it's a delicate balance, and I think these small projects help to benefit that little by little and not push anybody out. So I think it adds to the community. Time will tell, but I think it's one of those small pieces that fit into the pie of what a CRA's goals are.
Right. They did have a community meeting. I mean, one person showed up and she was in favor of the project. And obviously, she was a neighbor of the project. So just, we were asking the questions because we understand the CRA is a very delicate community, and we want to help build in the CRA, but we want to be able to have an opportunity for the residents in the CRA to be able to, purchase the new homes that we are allowing to be built in these areas. So, but we appreciate that you responded as you did, and thank you. So you asked
Look
for,
for a motion to,
I don't think it fits.
okay,
And the reason why I say that, we're talking about a two-story building that's going to be built next to a single-family home. And so because of the size of this property, that means that the person that's next door is going to look out the window, look into a wall. And so, I mean, I have no problem with new development and things that's going to help a bit. I just don't think that this particular product, being a two-story product, fits in the middle of single-family homes.
In addition to that, that's why I asked that question, because I don't think it actually fit as well. I think that community, in regards to, and I understand why the applicant would want to put multiple units there because they're able to maximize their profit, but I just don't think it actually fits with the design and kind of what that community needs. So I actually agree with that. So I think we should leave it. We're a single family home, and I don't think we should actually allow for.
so now,
let's step back though. It's would be zoned for two units as
Two
it
units.
currently stands.
No,
As of now, it allows 2 dwellings per acre.
but it would also allow for.
But the
a
size,
larger-
because of the size, even though it allows the 2 dwellings per acre, because of the size of the property, the property won't let to develop duplex. So their only option will be one single family.
Yeah, it's only we'll allow one single family right now.
be what?
One single family right now.
One single family. But now, I just
So
want
they
to
can't
ask
put a
Commissioner
duplex.
Smith, when I'm looking at where they're at, what is the distance between the private home and where this property is at? Because I'm looking at,
The home that the street,
and that's their backyard,
the home that the street is named after MA Board,
right?
her house is adjacent to this piece of property. The homeowner had to remove the awnings off their house because they overhung on this piece of property. So if a two-story house, two-story townhomes go there, all she's gonna have is a wall. It's right there. She wanted to come out her back door.
Hello, commissioners. How are you doing? Mayor, the property you're talking about is abandoned. The one to the left, there's nobody that lives there. It needs to probably be demolished. So that's the one that you're talking about, the awnings.
They just moved because
They're not there.
there's a school teacher living there,
They're
and they
never.
put up a fence.
They're never. You're talking about the one that's directly beside us.
Yes.
They're never there. There's windows. Her windows are busted.
But even in the event that someone moves in and is renovated, they'll still have that same issue.
Well, it looks like it needs to be demolished. So maybe we need to go and take a look at the property before we base it upon that property. Because it doesn't. It looks like that one's going to be eventually demolished.
But even if it's demolished, they will still have to build it back, and they'll still have the same issue that he's referencing.
But whoever buys it may turn it into the CRA district and build 2 single families. It's a big lot.
But we're not sure. But as it stands today, it's a single family home.
Yes, ma'am. But just for the record, the windows are busted, so it looks like it's going to be demolished.
It looks like they probably need to work out trying to get some CRA money to fix the windows.
Well, maybe we should. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there an opportunity from the applicant? Is there a design that you guys can come up with that makes it a single story, 3 single story townhomes? I know it takes away a substantial amount of square footage. I understand that, but is there an opportunity to do that, since that's obviously the biggest concern here?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this, and if they want to bring back a product that meets Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Anderson's need, then we can. So why don't we do that? If we maybe look for a motion to continue this one 2 weeks, or you need probably a month to come back with something that you could present.
You know what? I'd have to go and look at the property again.
Why don't we give them a month? So let's bring this. Look for a motion then to continue this to what's the first meeting in November? November what? 5th. Okay, so let me look for a motion to continue this item motion or ordinance number 3120 to the November 5th City Council meeting.
I move that we continue this item to the November 5th City Council meeting, ordinance number 3121.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second
by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Yeah.
All right, next up, ordinance number 3127.
Ordinance number 3127, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending Chapter 78 Utilities of the city's Code of Ordinances, authorizing the establishment of fines for the unauthorized tampering of utility systems, including meters, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Blanche Sherman, Finance Director. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. The city, the City Council desires to establish fines for unauthorized tampering of the city utility systems meter equipment to create a deterrent and recover the costs incurred to repair the meter. The following are the fines for the violations. The first offense, we're looking at $250. Second offense, $500, and the third offense, a cutoff of services. Attached in your document is ordinance number 3127, amending Chapter 78 Utilities of the City Code of Ordinances to establish the fines and the meter tampering.
Any questions for Blanche?
I have a couple questions. We've discussed this for a while. I guess there was a couple concerns specific to the ordinance itself. One speaks about one part of it. It's on line 50 of the ordinance, which reads, "No unauthorized person shall open or close valves, cut into or make any connection to the system." There's a lot in that. I know it's a one sentence and short, but there's a lot in there. And so what happens if a resident has a flood in their house and their valve to that's on their side is broken, they can't find it, it's buried, but they know where the valve is there. So we're going to fine them if they turn off the water to their house while it's flooding?
I don't think that's tampering with the meter. You're talking about the connection.
Meter, not the valve.
Well, it says valve.
Okay. But again,
So I know what it says. I know the difference between meters and valves. It says valves.
okay. I just want to share something with you. I did also gather some additional information at the request of Commissioner Velasquez. So as you are looking here, everyone can see. Oh, I know. So this is a comparison of 3 other municipalities, the city of Ocoee, Winter Garden, and Mount Dora, and what they do in regards to fines for meter tampering. So the language that you were reading, of course, is something that is already included in the ordinance. Basically, what we're trying to do here is amend the ordinance so that we can, to establish the fines, so that we can
I
implement
understand
the
it's
fines
already
for the
there.
rest
It's
of
just
the
now
city.
that it's brought to, kind of more to light. It's, again, how do we work through that issue? Are we going to find somebody for turning off their water while they're having a flood in their house?
I don't think that would be appropriate.
I agree. I don't think it would be appropriate.
Mhm.
And then with this, and this is similar to number 5 as well, that's coming up next that we're going to be going over. A lot of these issues came up because of developers switching switching meters, cutting and splicing meters to just get their COs and kind of keep things moving. Correct?
No. What the developers are doing, that's a different situation. This is because of the customers. Developers are relocating meters.
Which is tampering.
That's a different situation. They are relocating the meter from one resident to another. That's the thing.
In our meeting that we had yesterday, you used that as an example of tampering. That they're splicing it, that they're moving them, that they're...
And when we use those terms, we're referring to the customer. That is slicing, splitting the wires, and all of that. That's what we were referring to.
You're not saying any developers are doing this?
No, they're just relocating them.
But that's not tampering.
I'm not saying it's not tampering. I'm saying that this is related to the customer.
Well, I think what Commissioner Ness is saying is correct. If we get a builder out there, is like we've talked about with John Henson, is so you got 5 houses and they put, they've got the complete set, which is valve, meter, and the flex net on top. And house number 1 doesn't sell, and they go to house number 5, we just sold, and they take the flex net off of 1 and put it on 5. That's tampering. and
Yeah,
they're going to pay
I'm
the
not
fine.
saying, but we're already charging them for that. The developer, we're going back and asking them. We talked about establishing the fee to charge them for that.
Yeah, but they would still be eligible for this fine.
Yeah.
This new fine, they would.
Yeah.
That would be tampering. It would be
Correct.
finable.
So that is included in this.
Yes.
If you want to apply to the
Could be
developer,
fined.
we didn't discuss it to that level, but yes, it was the focus here was on the customer
But
because
a
the
developer is a
developer.
customer as well of our utilities.
I understand that, but I'm only sharing with you what the focus was in regards to the customer.
We did
But
discuss
the
developers
developer,
yesterday, though,
yeah, we
with
did.
this.
The developer is a customer. Let's put them in that category.
I agree.
Mhm.
So I guess and why I'm asking that question is so with SB 180,
hmm
there's talks of restrictions and kind of more burdensome things that a municipality may do. So could a developer say this is more burdensome? You're slowing down our process, things of that nature. So I'm just trying to say, like, is there a line? I'm just trying to. It's a weird beast that we're dealing with SB 180.
Is it possible that someone would make that claim? Yes. While they were explaining how they were acting as a criminal. So good
Right.
luck with that.
But crazier things
but
happen.
look, if you're wanting me to get on the bandwagon of the legislature should actually sit in your chairs and figure this out, yeah, they ought to, because they don't get it. But yes, not only this, you talked earlier about the joint planning area agreement and so forth. It depends, it's like beauty's in the eye of the beholder. In this case, more restrictive or burdensome is in the eyes of the developer. I think it's defensible for good reason that you can probably imagine. Like I said, well, we were trying to steal water, but that's more burdensome if you stop us from doing it and fine us for it. Could they make that claim? Yes, they could. Do I think I could beat them? Yes, I could. However, as you all know, everything that's gone to Tallahassee about SB 180 to say, is this okay, has gotten rejected. No, this is not okay. So who knows?
Right. And thank you for that. And I have the same kind of question about number 5, which we can discuss separately. Our next item on the agenda is that can that too be perceived as a more burdensome on a developer? So, but we'll stick to the meter tampering. I just wanted to kind of understand. So, and this will be fined through a water bill. This isn't going to be a code enforcement issue.
Right. It goes through the utility billing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, so it'll be Public Works that's running that? Is it Finance that's kind of running that? Who dictates to who?
Public Works is the one that determines that the meter has been tampered with. Through the work order process, they will let us know to bill them accordingly. And so we'll be tracking it through our system.
And is there any type of arbitration, or if they want to fight it and say that wasn't me, there was somebody else, that was an old owner, that was a tenant that did that, that wasn't me. Is there a process in play for that?
Not in regards to an arbitration or anything like that, because again, our ordinance, this is why we're putting it in the ordinance.
Okay. I mean, they're going to come to us then, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So we just need to understand that that's going to be a process moving forward here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
So is there a fine for developers moving a meter from one place to another?
Yes.
And what is that?
Again, I think he wants to apply these fines right here. That's what the mayor is indicating right now. He wants to apply the same fines for them moving the meters as well.
I think the developers ought to be held at a higher rate, personally, than you do a customer.
Let me just briefly discuss that. A crime is a crime is a crime. Tampering is tampering is tampering. Doesn't matter whether you're a developer or the, quote, end user customer. It's still a problem. But there isn't a basis, at least in what I am able to discern from the existing ordinance, and critically important. The only thing that's changing in this is the underlined parts. Everything else is already there. So the underlines are what's new, which gives us the opportunity to put in a fine system for this tampering issue. But I believe, let me go back and look at it. I believe the resolution for what the fines will be is a different thing. I don't think we
have to come back with a resolution.
We're going to come back with that. So if we can justify a different fine for developers, quote, versus end users, then I'll be happy to present it. But just know that typically if I, as a city attorney speed, I get the same fine as Joe Smith, who's not a city attorney. And there's not really a distinction, even though I should know the law perhaps better than Joe Smith.
And I understand that, but as a developer, if it's only going to cost me $250 and I can sell a house, I'll move the meter and pay the $250.
I agree with you. If I can justify it legally, I have no problem doing it.
Okay.
And then because it's a developer, is it per address or per customer? So we're cutting off. So let's say they get to a third offense. We're cutting off all of their services to everything that they own under their entity,
No,
or is it just for that home?
it's for that home.
And then which home is it if I move meters?
And that's what we, like again, when they determine that they have moved a meter, is where they moved it from.
And each meter is assigned to each home through a serial number, something of that nature.
Yes. Correct.
And if they don't pay this, it's similar to a water bill in the same sense that if you don't pay it, your service is shut off.
Yes, third offense cut off.
No, but I'm saying I get a first offense and I'll pay the water portion of my bill, but I'm not paying the first offense portion of
Yeah.
my bill. It's still shut off.
Yes.
And eventually, a la Earl Estates, it turns into a very large lien, which was paid off, this week?
9/24.
Yeah.
Understood.
Okay. Any other questions for Blanche? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one?
Albert McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. Simple question. Why? You're supplying water. It's a public utility. Duke Energy supplies electricity. A public utility. When you circumvent the meters, Duke Energy doesn't do anything other than send the police to you. It's a criminal offence. They don't decide who might or might not have been involved in the crime. They leave the police to prosecute it. However, what you're going to do is set yourself up as judge and juries to decide who is guilty or who is not guilty of tampering. If you feel that's good investment, City Hall time and effort, that's fine. But it already exists for you to take action legally against anyone that tampers with a water meter. So why are you doing it? You just want more authority? No, leave it where it stands.
Sylvester Hall, that was one of my questions. Why is there a need for this? And how many meters have been tampered with? Do we have a count? Because the last time I heard, we're taking estimates on the meters. So who's actually going out and finding this damage if we're doing all the estimates when it comes to reading the meters? And wouldn't this be better time served to figure out how we're going to go and start a process of actually doing actual meter readings? How many meters we have? How many man hours it's going to take to go and read those accurately? What is the progressive time that we have to put forth and making sure that the reading is documented accurately and people are billed according to what services they're using? But we spending this time trying to come up with who's going to tamper, who's tampering with meters. I'd like to know how many cases you have had reported meters being tampered with, that it becomes an issue that we have to bring to the floor. And also, how you going to prove who did what? If I'm a homeowner, I didn't do that. Did you see me? Anybody could have come and vandalized it. These are the issues that we have. So why are we making more work when we need to be focused on how can we start a process where we can actually go out and read meters and bill the homeowners according to the water that they use instead of making estimates which make us look like a butthole when you come out to billing people. We're still billing people from estimates a year ago. So when you say make it make sense, make it make sense. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. They've covered most of the points that I was looking at doing the question, what's the burden of proof? The aspect of, we identified over 3 years ago, there were 6,600, I think, water meters that were not operational. We still have 4,000 of the last report we have. How much of it is operational? How much of it is it really being tampered with? And as Mr. Hall indicated, what's the burden of proof? Did Rod Olson go out and modify his meter, or was it someone didn't like Rod Olson, moved it, and said, "Hey, look, you ought to take a look. I saw a guy out by the meter." Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, let's close the public hearing.
So yeah, I mean that brings up a few good questions obviously here. So there's in the ordinance already, it states that the offender may also be subject to code enforcement proceedings. So this does turn into a code enforcement issue at one point.
Potentially, I guess it could, based on the ordinance.
Okay, so what's the? I guess I'm going to stick on that. And I got a couple other things. What's the plan then? Are we doing code enforcement? Is this a code enforcement that they need to be going out and handling this, or is this a public works?
Public Works is the one that maintain the meters. And as they go through and if we have a meter that is probably estimated, that means that either that meter has stopped, something has caused that meter to estimate.
Sure.
The process in regards to that. So when we issue the work order, they go out and they look at the meter. That's when that determination is made. They can make that determination whether the wires have been cut, something that has been damaged that's not related to the meter itself failing or the antenna itself failing. It's because someone has tampered with it in the wrong way.
And it's a public works decision then.
Yes, it comes from there when they go out.
So that'll only be happening when, if I'm hearing you correctly, when they're going out to replace meters.
Yes, when they're going to repair that meter.
Okay.
That's the only way we can validate that. Yes.
Okay. So, and then do we have a current count? Because the fact that we're bringing this up again means that has to be a big issue. Do you have a list that you can provide of over the past year? This address did it. This address did it. This address did it. Or this customer? Or...
Yeah. Commissioner Velasquez had requested some trends. She wanted about 3 years. That's going to take some time. We do have alarms that go off, but the alarms could be related to different things and not necessarily, the customer tampering with it. So we'd have to go back and look at some of the work orders and see, did they indicate anything such as that?
Which, unless you're recording that data in some capacity, we're not going to capture that.
It's recorded. It's just not easy to accumulate.
So we don't know if this is a ongoing huge issue or if this is a kind of a more smaller issue that maybe happens less frequently. There's no data that we have right now available.
We got enough. We're trying to lower, the whole purpose is to lower the water rates. I mean, if you don't want to lower water rates, let's just leave it alone.
Well, we could have just voted to not lower the water or increase the water rates.
Well, you couldn't vote.
So
do you have the data then that you're basing this off of, Mayor?
So let me.
I'm not finished yet. Thank you.
No,
so do you have that data?
Commissioner
No,
Anderson?
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm not nearly done. Do you have the data available?
No.
Okay, so there's no data available to show that this is an ongoing issue. And so then the point that was made too, and I'd ask the same question, kind of that burden of proof of if something happens there, or again, if a construction worker runs over, they're doing work on my next door neighbor's house and they run over my box in some capacity, nobody catches it, but except you guys do. Hey, meter's broken. So then I get fined for that.
Again,
what's the resident's recourse, I guess, to say, this was an accident? This wasn't...
Cliff?
It is apparent that none of you guys have ever been to code enforcement. Yeah. We get code violations all the time. Somebody cuts down a tree. Nobody sees it. Tree's down. Didn't have a permit. Guess what? It's on the property. That's where the violation attaches. That's how this goes. If you think about any crime, there are often no witnesses. How are they proved? With evidence. What's the evidence? Well, the evidence is we had that the services were continued to be provided to the property, that they continued to take them, that they stopped paying, that they didn't pay ever a bill, which anybody would have known, and so forth. So is it circumstantial? Sure. Does it happen literally every day? Yes, it does. And so it's not what it's being made out to be. That's the nature of code enforcement. Critically, it attaches to the property. To your point, Commissioner Nesta, if the individual says, I didn't do it, I didn't know about it, okay, well, so the last 6 months you haven't paid a bill. So did you have a clue? Did you report that you weren't getting a bill, etc.? This is how it goes. And then at that point, if it's code enforcement, The magistrate, in your case, because sometimes it's a code board, makes a determination based on the credibility of the witnesses and the evidence, and it goes from there. That's what it does. That's
Wait,
how it works.
so it's going to stay with the house or the property, not with the person paying the bill. So if I have multiple houses and I have tenants in those houses, I get fined for it.
If you're the property owner, that is typically where it goes. Now, there are.
We're talking about two different things. Two different things have been said right now. Then she was saying, excuse me, Mr. Sherman was saying that it goes with the customer, and that goes on their bill.
Let me explain. So there is a particular statute that applies when you're talking about tenants and landlords. In fact, we went through this, which is someone has been a tenant in a building and has its own it has its own account with the utility. And there's a specific law that if it can be proven that the customer had the direct account and that was it, then you cannot lien the property of, for example, an apartment that contains multiple units. That's a state law. But for everything else we're talking about, all code enforcement applies to the property.
So that's also like multi-unit. That's specifically to multi-unit developments in some capacity.
Correct.
Okay, so then what we're discussing is not to the customer; it's going to go to the property owner. Then,
well,
in the majority of the cases,
if there's a lease situation, let's just talk about that. That's going to be between the tenant and the landlord, because if the landlord gets hit with a fine or something that they didn't expect, and depending on whether they have a good enough lease, as I guess you probably would, anybody in real estate understands, that gets passed on to the tenant if you've got a good lease, and that's what typically happens. So when I sit as a coded magistrate in Kissimmee, so that's my background for having decided hundreds of these cases. And at the end of the day, when the landlord, quote, property owner shows up and they're concerned about what their tenant did, typically the tenant has already been booted and they're looking to collect from that tenant for what they are now responsible for. So that's how it actually plays out.
On the process itself. Okay, so the homeowner, the owner is going to be liable, and whatever they do with it beyond that,
that's how it typically
is up to them.
Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen that a meter is broken somehow and you don't have a duty to report that you're getting free electric or free water or whatever it is. You don't have a duty to do that, but is that evidence that you might have had something to do with it because you're accepting the benefit? If it weren't, how do cable companies get you for pirating cable or your neighbor's internet signal or whatever else? So that's kind of how it goes. It's not a perfect system, but it's how the system works.
Okay. Thank you. And then so do we have an estimated, I guess the whole point of this that was said is that this was supposed to be bringing down our water bills somehow. Do we have an estimate of what this saving is going to bring to us, income that it's going to bring to us?
Again, not at this time, but again, even though it may increase revenue, but we're also trying to discourage, we don't want this to happen, because it's too costly. So we're trying to discourage it as well.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson?
I think it's important to understand that one of the issues is that they're having we do have a staff shortage in regards to the meter replacement, and if we're having staff go back out and having to continue to replace meters where they're tampering with the meters, this should be a no-brainer. I just don't understand it. I mean, why our staff, why is our residents going to foot the bill when we have people that are tampering with the meters? I don't understand.
And to your point, it's more of a deterrent.
Deterrent.
What it's looked for is a deterrent. It's not. I don't want to collect any money. I don't want this to collect any money, but I want it to be a deterrent for those that because I can tell you there are people out there that they do it and they tell the neighbor, man, all I got to do is just do something to the meter and you don't have to pay water. But so we need to have a deterrent that we can if we need to call it out, we're going to call it out and fine them. So it's. The builders, they need to know we're serious too. I mean, we're not going to allow that anymore. I mean, John's been out there hustling and making sure that we're not switching flex nets to different houses. But so this is for everybody that knowingly is tampering with meters or moving flex nets or whatever it is they're doing. So it's a stick to get you into compliance. That's all it is.
And to Commissioner Nesta's request I did ask her for data for the last 3 years. Like, tell me how many meters you had to go respond to that were tampered, starting from 3 years ago till now, just to have a running of, was it 50 one year? Did it go up to 75? What's the number that we're dealing with right now?
And we don't
Because
have that data.
if we're going up this way, then this would help to deter, especially now that we have all these future developments coming online, is just to have something in place to start discouraging the tampering.
But the ordinance is in place already. We're just adding 2 lines effectively to it.
The ordinance is in place in regards to tampering, but it does not allow us to impose a fine, and that's the only language that we're adding.
But it does let us do code enforcement.
Yes.
Right.
But to
which
me,
would produce fines, more aggressive fines even.
I think 1 meter is too much tampered with.
Okay.
I agree. That's where code enforcement comes into play.
I'm just following the guidance of our city attorney, in regards to how do we need to impose this. And this is his recommendation that we update the ordinance.
All right.
And then, implement it via resolution after the ordinance is approved.
Thank you, Blanche. Appreciate it. All right. Looking for a motion to approve ordinance number 3127, first reading and hold over for second reading and adoption.
Okay. So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Nesta in opposition.
Thank you.
Resolution 2025-42, John Hanson.
Resolution number 2025-42, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, establishing penalties for construction activity conducted outside of posted construction hours, providing for fines, and a stop work order for repeat offenses, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. John Hanson, Building Official. This resolution is a bit of a housekeeping item. This stop work orders, they've been in the code for quite a few years, but never mentioned working outside of the approved construction hours, which are 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturday, and no working on Sunday. And we came up with the amounts of the first time offense would be $1,000, the second time $5,000, and the third time would be a stop work order for 7 days. And this is basically for contractors and developers, and that's basically what we came up with. Questions?
Any questions for John?
I actually had a more so of a smaller mom pop electrician reached out to me, and they don't work on Saturdays because of their religion. They work on Sundays. So this was really,
That would have to be cleared either through myself or Radley.
so they can put in a request to work.
Correct. For
Okay.
something of that nature, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So similar questions to what we kind of discussed on the last item here is, well, for the stop work order, is it for the project in totality, or is it that whatever home or building they're working on that we catch them at working off hours?
This would be the project.
So it's it's 300 homes, single family homes. One home they're working on passed at 7:01. If they do it 3 times, you're shutting down the entire neighborhood project.
Correct.
Okay. And then the fines and things like that, how is that paid? What's that process look like? Who enforces it?
It would go into the workflow on OpenGov, working outside of approved construction hours. They would have to pay that before they get the CO.
And we have other similar fines in place, or more so, it's the question: do we have other fines that kind of go through that same process within the building department that get charged to the developers?
Mostly just that. For on the building side, I mean, there's other stuff on the engineering and public works side, but basically that's basically it for the building. Reinspection fees, of course, but.
And so, like for those, that would get invoiced that same way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So they already have that set up, and that's how that would get done. Then.
Correct.
So kind of same question there too. Well, let's say that they weren't working late, or they were, it was a dispute. Is there arbitration? Is there any type of?
Most of these I get from the police officers that patrol on the weekends and after our working hours. So they'll send me photos. They'll send me pictures of say John's Plumbing. They'll show his truck there, and then that's basically how we get the information on that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to the developer, not to or is it to the vendor that's doing the work?
It would go to the developer, and then whatever they do with it, if they want to charge the vendor that amount, they can go ahead and do that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there is some type of proof that is like a
Correct.
baseline for
Yep.
proof of that.
It's almost like you get a small police report
Okay.
that shows time and date.
And then, so specific to SB 180, this is not a more burdensome or restrictive.
It is something someone might claim, but it would be like claiming it's more burdensome if we raise the fines for speeding. It's still, you're not supposed to speed. So I think that one's dead on arrival. I would never predict that Tallahassee would have even gotten where we are. But yeah, I don't think this is an issue.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to figure out kind of where we're drawing the line as a city of, hey, this is not burdensome, but this is, or this is more restrictive and this isn't.
Let me explain. It is about obtaining a permit. They're already building. They've got a permit. They're just simply not following the rules for continuing to build. That's different.
And those hours are on every permit we issue.
Okay.
They're on every one. So they know. They know.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions for John? Okay, anybody from the public?
Albert McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. I live next to Parkview Preserve, which has been ongoing for a couple of years under development. Is there any data that the city can provide with how many times they've had to take action against a developer? I can say that it has been inconvenient at times over the years to have noise. But again, the city themselves worked at the retention pond 7 days a week. That's construction. So are we going to make exemptions for some people and not have exemptions for others? In terms of looking to take action against people, we are then going to put the burden on the police because code enforcement don't work on Saturdays and Sundays or outside later hours. So are we diverting police to go round development estates? And if that's the case, what's the cost benefit to us? Because we're going to have to employ extra police to perhaps bring in a small amount of revenue for something. Again, we're back to the question of why. All I see is a city trying to stamp everything so that they're in control. And the things that they really need to be in control of, like dumping demolition rubble into ponds, which constitutes criminal activity by the city itself, you turn a blind eye. You're hypocrites.
Hang on, John.
Oh. Good.
Just more of a question. I was thinking that, and I guess we directed at John, is I was understanding that our current policy is $5,000 for the first offense and then the shutdown for a week.
We talked that we wanted to go with 1,000 to start off with.
Are you able to come to the mic just so we can
hear
your response, please?
I'm sorry. We just want to give them like the 3 strikes and you're out. Start with 1,000. There's no warnings anymore. I mean, first time it's boom, $1,000. Second time the 5, and then we shut them down for the week after that.
And I'm sorry.
Thank you. That was all I had.
In regards to Mr. McKimmy's comments, I use the police as an example. We get calls quite a bit from homeowners.
That was going to be my question.
Neighbors.
Can we have homeowners kind of report some of this or provide
Exactly. And they give us basically the same stuff. They were there at, 6:25 on a Saturday morning, starting on the neighbor's screen room or whatever. Yeah. So we get a lot of those too. But the most ones we get are from the police when they're out patrolling or whatever. So
okay.
That's all I got.
Thank you, John. All right.
So, John, come back.
Okay.
What Mr. McKimmy was saying, he's the neighbor of Golden Gem. Do these rules apply to us as the city at Golden Gem?
If someone were to call and complain, never received any that I can recall. But yeah, absolutely. Unless it's cleared between Radley and myself for a son working on Sunday or whatever. Correct. Or outside of the hours. Like we have early morning concrete pours. They come to me, I get with IT, it goes on the website. There's plenty of times they're pouring concrete at 1 o'clock in the morning, but they get with us, we get with IT, and they get permission. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. All right. Looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2025-38.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, resolution 2025-43. Is that me?
Resolution 2025-43. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, determining the necessity and public purpose of a certain property within the city for right-of-way and infrastructure improvements and other necessary lawful purposes, and authorizing the acquisition of that certain property in Apopka, Florida, by eminent domain or through negotiation, directing and authorizing the city administrator to take all necessary actions to carry out the aim of this resolution, authorizing the city attorney to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the necessary property, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, severability, and the effective date.
All right, thank you guys. This is a backstop. Let me explain. We're under contract with the Greenbrier folks. Everything is going smoothly. Title work is being ordered. Everything should close, and this should not become an issue. But if for something were to happen, if it were to break down, what this resolution does is it means we don't have to come back to you to file the necessary action to get the property we need for Kelly Park. We have this property under contract. We now have I think it's the Risser property under contract, RJR. Also, we do not have under contract, but we're meeting with the representatives of the dentist, and I want to say it's either later in November or December. I can't remember. We tried to set dates when they would be available, and that would constitute all of those properties, except there's one that was recently brought to our attention, and I told the developers' representatives, it appears that the property is in the county, not in the city, and I'm not sure what they think we can do about it. So I'm waiting for them to get back to me with a response on that. But as to this property, this is a backstop only to be used if we do not close. But it looks like for everything we are going to close, and it's all good.
Okay, any questions for Cliff?
I do have a couple questions here. For the Pioneer Agreement, there's a fund of 15, 17, 18 million.
20
million. For your fees in this process, to do all of this, to get the right of way, things of that nature, is that all being pulled out of that fund, or are we as a city paying for some of that?
That I don't know, but the fees and the cost for actually doing the taking and paying for it comes out of that fund. So if we agree to pay up, as you're going to hear me say later, a property owner X amount of dollars, that comes out of that fund. So whatever we pay the Risters, whatever we pay the Greenbrier, and whatever we end up paying to the dentists, that will come out of that fund.
Okay, because I would think it's appropriate to have your fees and whatever other fees are associated with this specific process come out of that.
I'm happy to look at it, but I honestly do not know whether that is or isn't included. And to be clear, these are not set up as separate matters. We'd have to go back and backtrack them out. They're all billed under Apopka because that's what we were told to do. So in order to get them to where they'd be trackable for the developers, we'd have to go back and say, okay, how much time was Risser? How much
You're speaking
time?
about your specific invoices.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Correct.
Understood. So that obviously takes time. It depends with council, but I think it's appropriate to do that for this specific project. Because again, if you weren't here, we'd be hiring somebody else, or the developers would be, to kind of massage this process. So I think it is appropriate to pull from that fund that was supposed to pay for this. The property itself is a pet cemetery?
No, it's not a pet cemetery, but it's owned by a company. I think it might have been future expansion or something. It's just a portion of the property, but yes.
So is there any type of deed restrictions or issues or a cloudy title that we can't take over a cemetery property of some sort?
No, because it's not cemetery property. It is adjacent to or a part of the property they own, but as far as I understand, there's no pets buried there.
Okay. And we'll be doing some type of title search, I assume, as well?
Yeah, that's all a part of the closing documents.
Okay.
That's actually being ordered now.
Which I thought, and it's through a third-party company as well. It's not Goliath. What is the name of that title company? Because it's not your...
No. It's actually a firm, a law firm that writes title insurance through Old Republic and a couple of other, I think, Attorneys Title and several others to do the closing part. So once we get a contract, then we turn the contract over along with a legal description to the person who's doing the closing. They order the title work. They then send out the commitment to be reviewed and approved, in this case by us. And if we approve the commitment, then they will prepare the closing documents and set a closing date.
Would there be anything on the title that you would object to
Yes.
after reviewing it?
Yes, a restriction that says we couldn't build a road there.
Okay.
Or whatever else we need.
Okay.
Or if it showed this is cemetery, there's a specific statute that violates state law.
Right.
But I don't think that state law applies to pet cemeteries, but I don't think we'd want to do it at least without exploring a little bit more.
Absolutely. And there is a contract already in place, correct?
I'm sorry?
There's already a contract in place for the purchase of this.
Correct.
Right away. Okay.
And it's now signed by everybody.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Cliff? All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this one?
Albert McKimmy, 3603 Golden Gem Road. This probably isn't going to be as quick as I would like it to be. But my understanding is it doesn't really matter whether it's a pet cemetery or a cemetery. If it's registered to the state as a cemetery, it becomes the same thing, and eminent domain may not be applicable. Secondly, even though we have a situation whereby it's not perhaps the area where the pets are buried that was needed to be taken over for the road, when there's an interment, the people who intern their animals, or whether it's people in that, they actually take deed to the property. So how many animals are buried there? How many people might be included in the deed of the cemetery? And if there is problems, if you own part of the cemetery, how do you decide how it's divvied up to sell it? It's not as straightforward as you think it is. But the other thing is that if you go back to the framework agreement for the pioneering agreement, which was a couple of years ago, Mike Galvin came up here and stood exactly here and said that COs, certificates of occupancy, would not be available until the road was widened and the construction had been developed. I beg to differ, Mayor, because I have it in video. What I'll tell you is it wasn't written up in the pioneering agreement like that. It was different from the pioneering agreement than what it was. And I downloaded the thing the other day and I took photographs of what it was projected up on that screen. Admittedly, we have problems with the COs. But here's the fact. We have all these properties on Golden Gem Road and now on Kelly Park where people are occupying homes that we don't have the roads and the infrastructure to deal with. We should have, at the time of that pioneering agreement, had a much deeper dive. I would hazard a guess that most of you commissioners are sitting on there today really don't understand the pioneering agreement. I mean, the engineers department admitted they didn't understand the pioneering agreement, and I suggested you bring back Jacob Schumer to explain it to you. It's a 60-page thing. And here's the thing, commissioners. When you voted on it, you all had hard copies of it. So if you don't understand it, go back and read the hard copies.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right. If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion.
I just have a quick question from staff. And I've asked this before too. The pioneer agreement itself, when it was our former city administrator, Mr. Smith, had said that there's a couple different variations of the pioneer agreement out there, that one developer has one developer has another, we have a different one. And he said that at that time he was trying to get his feet under him of which one was the correct one. Do we have somebody on staff that has that understanding of what the correct one is and the terms that are in place?
I cannot speak for what Mr. Smith says, but there's only one agreement. Now, I will say, and this might have been the reason for his confusion, depending on who you ask, they call it different things. Some call it the pioneering agreement. Some call it the roadway something. I'm sorry. Roadway funding agreement and so forth. So it goes by several days. It's like 1792 Mills Avenue and Orlando Avenue, but it's the same agreement.
Okay. And then do we have anybody on staff that has a comfortable understanding of what that agreement, where the status of it, where it's going, how it's looking, timelines, provisions?
Yeah, Commissioner. Not only Blanche as far as the funding side of it, but also Vlad as far as the timelines and working with the pioneers to make sure the roadway is moving.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Look for a motion to approve Resolution 2025-38.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. City Council reports. Commissioner Velasquez, why don't you get us started?
Okay. I have a list.
All right.
First, I want to thank both the State Representative Bankson and Senator Levon Bracy Davis for coming in um, and giving us an update of what's going on in Tallahassee. Second, I want to thank our Apopka firefighters who went on their own time and participated at the Tunnel to Towers run over in New York City. My understanding, this is our 9th year participating, so it's something that's very close to my heart. 9/11 in New York City. So I want to say thank you to our firefighters for participating and really supporting New York City and with the 9/11. Also, I want to thank and I sit on the board with the Wekiva High School culinary team. They did a great job in cooking the food for Captain Brick's retirement celebration. Everyone really raved about the food and was hoping that for Christmas, the mayor picked the same menu. That was what I was told. No turkey. They don't want turkey. Um, I also want to congratulate our Commissioner Smith on celebrating 2 years this past Sunday as the senior pastor for his church. I'm sorry I was unable to I was going to go to the church service, but I just couldn't go on Sunday. And I just want to kind of follow up with Clear Lake. You know, I've received some emails. I've kind of forwarded them back and forth, and I've kind of seen the responses from our staff to the residents of Clear Lake. So I know that you had a meeting with the HOA. So if we can kind of get an
Briefing
update
next
on
time.
that, yeah. And then, of course, Saturday Sounds is starting this Saturday. I'm looking forward to going there. The strategic plan was closed on September 19th. Do we have what I'm curious is how many residents responded to that strategic planning?
Yeah, let me pull that information up for you, and I'll give it to you in the city administrator report.
Okay. And then, of course, both the state representative and the senator referenced the SB 180. Now, there is a lawsuit out there where different cities are kind of getting together. Is that something that we would consider joining that lawsuit? Obviously, we're having issues with
Yeah,
SB 180.
there are two different approaches that are happening. The first one is what you mentioned, and we do have the opportunity to join it if we choose to. It is, relatively speaking to lawsuits, a small cost. I want to say it's somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 per city to join the lawsuit, and that's a flat fee. However, the other approach is using our own lobbyist, as well as those cities that are engaging this effort, to get this legislature to change and fix the problem. What is the problem as most cities see it? Well, it's a couple of different things. The first one is this idea that it's supposed to be about storm recovery, yet it applies to development that never was affected at all by a storm. And we've seen that. That's the biggest issue, is that if it really was about storm recovery, which is how it's titled, then why is it that we're trying to impact development that had nothing to do with storm, wasn't impacted by storm, wasn't denied a permit based on storm, but now we can't raise impact fees?
That's okay.
So
Thank you.
that's number one. The other thing is, as you know, it impacts our ability, as it's been reported out multiple times by certain citizens. We can't stop development with a moratorium even now if we followed all the rules that apply to moratoriums, because the state says we cannot, and we cannot until at least 2027. And so if they would change those things, and so that the moratorium restriction, for example, would only apply as against development that was already ongoing, that would not be a problem. Then we could go about our planning and do our business the way we want to, because again, it is not the goal of the cities that are trying this approach to stop people who were affected by storm from being able to recover or continue with their projects. But this legislation, like often legislation does, has significant unintended consequences depending on your perspective. Maybe they were intended, but where it leaves us is that we can't do things that we could have done before. And as was mentioned, it looks back to 2024 when nobody had this on their bingo card. So the one approach is join the lawsuit, which you can do. It's being handled by a firm, Weissman, Sirota, Hoffman, and a fellow named Jamie Cole, and they are challenging it for a number of different reasons, not the least of which, for example, I think it was Okoe I read about, that the challenge came after the comp plan had already been adopted and the time for a challenge had expired. And so how is it that you can now come in and look back and say, your comp plan was adopted, the time expired to challenge it, and now you're telling me it's unlawful? So that's the basis of that challenge. And everybody's different. But the biggest thing is, what are you doing with home rule here? That's the litigation approach. The other approach is what I said, going to the legislature like we did today with the people looking at us and say, hey, here's our concern. And through your lobbyist or your direct contacts, try to make them understand.
Okay. Yeah, only because what I'm reading from all the cities, to include ours, it's really making us go back to to rewrite our comp plan, but we've put so much time into that and money, and so now they're saying it's no good. And then 2027 is going to show up, and then it's going to be gone. So where does that leave at least our city?
That is correct. So if y'all want to have a discussion about which way you want to go, right now we're not doing either thing unless we are doing it through lobbyists, because I'm not the lobbyist. But if we want to do one way or the other and you want to get together and talk about it or put it on a future agenda to figure it out, then just let me know.
Well, that was just something I'm just approaching. I know that you did mention it to State Rep Bankson and of course our senator, but I feel like if we can join the cities, it becomes much stronger front for Tallahassee to realize how it negatively is impacting all the local municipalities. But do we have a lobbyist that goes up there for us?
Me.
You, okay.
I'm going up on the 14th, so.
Okay. Well, you decide.
Yeah,
I mean, you're the CEO, but when you get up there, but I've been following all the different cities that are joining that lawsuit, and then reading, and obviously all of them are having the same issues with their comp plan.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And the last thing is that we as the city are celebrating two big milestones. So happy 143 years for the city of Apopka. That's a big deal. And of course, 100 years in City Hall. And I will compliment that I like the light blue in our chamber here. And I know eventually we're going to get new rugs here.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Right. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes. So I kind of remain silent on this issue. However, it's something that has become a safety issue for me and my family and my daughter. So most recently this year, we saw Minnesota Rep. Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman, killed. We also saw Senator John Hoffman and wife Vet Hoffman were wounded from politically motivated shootings and also attempting their daughter's life. Most recently, there has been some social media posts that was sent to my daughter, which caused my daughter and I to go into hiding. And I'm going to go ahead and read this on record, what was stated on social media. As well agree, I'm just going to read it how it's written. I as well agree with that. She also claims to have an office on Park Ave, but there's never anyone there. Yes, I've seen cars in the parking lot, so I stopped a couple of times and the doors were locked. So I knocked and no answer. But I'm an expert. I know what I'm doing. She claims to be there. So, with that being said, most recently we also had Charlie Kirk that was also killed by politically motivated hate. Recently, this past Christmas, my daughter was outside riding her scooter and she ran inside the house because there was someone sitting outside watching her. Most recently, about a few weeks ago, there's been several cars circulating my residence. I had to relocate and move 3 times. With that being said, I challenge every commissioner, the mayor that is sitting on this dais to understand this. If any commissioner, I feel, engages in or condones this hateful stalking behavior is equally responsible and guilty, it is a clear indication that you show support for this type of action. In addition to that, I recently received an email that was shared with me in regards to a commissioner on this dais supporting certain behavior and also engaged with certain lawsuits that was filed against me. Let me be very extremely clear. At this point and at this time, I will be working closely with the Apopka Police Department and the Orange County courts to seek any injunction and protection order to ensure the safety of my daughter. Please understand this. I do understand that as an elected official that there will be some type of disagreement and some form of hate. But what would not be tolerated is stalking, harassment, threats of my life, threats to drown me, pictures of my daughter circulating. My daughter actually is the one who received that text message and asked that we go stay with my parents. So I'm asking you all, I understand that you have the people that you support and that you don't like me or whatever, but when it comes to the safety of my daughter, understand this. If anyone or if I fear in any type of attempt on my daughter's life, I will do whatever's necessary to protect my daughter and myself. I'm an elected official, I understand that, but my personal home, my personal businesses has absolutely nothing to do with the city. And I'm requesting all the residents at this time to please stop stalking, harassing, driving by my residency and my business. Most recently, my assistant is in fear of coming into the office because of residents that are coming by my office to see if I'm actually working at my office. That is not what I was elected for you guys to stalk my personal residence and to stalk my business and to stalk my daughter's school. The kids at her school is coming up to her. So if you have any type of heart for the protection of my daughter's mental health, I'm asking you guys to please stop the stalking and the harassment. And to my colleagues that sit on the dais with me, to please stand with me in the attempt to make sure that nothing like this happened to my family and I, because we've seen it happening and it's happened most recently. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner. Commissioner Nestor?
I definitely take your daughter's safety serious, so I'm really sorry to hear that. I would genuinely say that she should not be experiencing that in any capacity. Just a consistent reminder of my office hours. They're every Thursday from 11 to 1 here at City Hall. If you want to do 30-minute increments, I recommend just kind of reaching out, setting a time to meet with me. It's a productive time to be able to just discuss anything that makes the city better, that we can work together to bring the city forward together. So in any capacity, reach out to me. And if you're not comfortable meeting at City Hall, I'm happy to meet anywhere else that you find comfortable or that you deem that you need to meet at. The other issue here that I wanted to bring up is that over the last two agenda review meetings on September 16th and then yesterday, September 30th, no department heads were in my agenda reviews to be able to discuss salient details and questions that were going on that I find critically important, and it's best to ask directly from the professionals that know what they're talking about and have the experience and are able to give me direct answers and have some dialogue of what the issues are going on. So I don't know if it was only my meeting. Commissioner Smith, did you have any department heads in your meetings, the last two meetings?
It was the same.
Okay. Commissioner Velazquez, did you have any department heads?
No,
Okay.
just our finance director, Blanche.
Okay. So my direct request, and I did reference this yesterday, and I don't want it to go overlooked because I understand there was a point that was made that we're trying to save time and efficiency, but at the same time, I have to ask so many more questions while we're at these meetings and don't get enough information up front. And it's just critically important that I get it directly from our hired professionals that know what they're doing, know how they're doing. So I want to make sure the following people are in each and every one of my meetings that I can ask the questions that need to be asked. So it's the city administrator's office, Mr. Radley Williams. You were present, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Finance director, Mrs. Blanche Sherman, was present as well. Please continue to be in those meetings. Our community development director, Mr. Bobby Howell, please join those meetings. You're always wealth of knowledge as well during those. Our economic development director, Mrs. Antoinette Forbes, please be in those meetings. Again, all of us, all of these department heads, we impact each other. All the decisions are impactful to each other. So although you may not be specifically on the agenda, it still is impactful, and what you may have a expertise that acknowledges that. So Fire Chief Mr. Will Sanchez, please be in those meetings moving forward. Human Resources Director Dr. Joe Patton, please be in those meetings. IT Director Mr. Rob Hippler, Parks and Rec Ms. Cindy Edwards, Police Chief Chief Mike McKinley, and Public Services Mr. Vlad Simonovsky. It's a wealth of knowledge. I need to be able to contact you and be able to have that direct contact when we're going over such important issues that we're dealing with at the city, because they're all multifaceted and all connected. So it's very important that we are meeting together in one concise meeting. My meetings don't last long, and I think every department head can say that. Mine are very concise because I know the questions that I need to ask. I need the answers, and we're in and out, usually less than an hour. So I want to make sure that I won't be wasting your time, but please, I ask that my time's not wasted either. And with that, I'm finished. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. In reference to the agenda reviews, I'm perfectly fine, because what I do when I receive the agenda on Friday, I go through the agenda. If there's a specific item that I need more information on, I send that to our director, and then he in turn will have that particular department head present for me. So I was fine with the manner which they were conducted. I want to say thanks to the Public Works and to Mr. Ratley Williams for responding to the email that I sent in reference to the erosion at Happy Plants out on Keller Park Road. So I'm going to say thanks for that. The residential facade program is going very well, getting a lot of positive responses from our residents, and they are very appreciative for that program. And so just want to acknowledge that this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so we want to continue to pray for those individuals that are survivors and those that are going through as well. Because, a number of us have been affected by either a family member or someone that has gone through breast cancer. And so we want to keep them lifted up in our prayers as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All right, Radley.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Real quick before we get to the utility meter replacement program update, to answer your question, Commissioner Velasquez, we went from 127 responses on August 8th, survey responses, to a final number of 282 when the survey closed.
282.
282. Also, we did receive final confirmation from Barry Dunn, our consultant. Everything looks good for Tuesday, October 21st for that City Council strategic planning session from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We are looking to hold that at the Apopka Community Center in case a crowd does decide to come. And
Are we kind of marketing that to kind of encourage residents?
Now that we're going ahead and locking this date in, we will be advertising that. And we will have our IT department set up the facility for that as well.
So at the end, we only had 282?
The final number of surveys was 282, yes.
And are you able to repeat that date and time again, please?
Tuesday, October 21st, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Thank you.
And I'll be sending calendar invites out to each of you to add that to your calendar as well.
Okay.
And then just the update we discussed about the utility meter replacement program. Estimated billings, we've reduced 31% from October 2024. We're at 31% estimated billings. We've dropped that number to 16% as of the end of September. Our current goal moving forward now is to reduce that number even further to 12% by the end of 2025. That would leave us with approximately 3,400 still estimated bills. The goal after that would be to reduce down to 8% by March 31, 2026. Would put us around 2,300 water meters or water bills still estimated. And again, that kind of national average is between the 5 to 10%. We obviously want to be 5% or better, because that'll give us the opportunity to make sure the corrections are made within the month before the bill cycle hits. We started another push on August 4th of this year. Throughout that time period up to end of September, We've reduced the no reads by 1,132 meters. We reviewed 967 accounts, and we've processed 4,376 work orders. So the utility operations staff, the utility billing staff, they've been putting in an extreme focus and extreme work product into getting these numbers down. The chart that's up on the screen there kind of shows our trends. It's normal billing versus estimated billing for the year from October 2024 to September yesterday closing, and showing that that effort that's gone in to drop those numbers. So, like I said, the next goal for our staff is to end 2025 at least at 12% and continue pushing. Typically, what we've seen as we've been going through this year, when we look back at the data, we're able to get about 2% reduction month over month when we really put the focus on it. So we'll continue to move through that and keep you updated on a monthly basis on where these numbers land and how we're moving forward.
Sure.
Can you send us that chart?
Yeah, I can share this slide
I
with
was
you.
just going to say that.
Absolutely, I'll share this with you. And again, the only reason we didn't get this to you earlier is because we wanted to get the latest data, which was yesterday. Blanche, I think, was working on it past 6, so wanted to make sure we had the numbers as current as possible for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rad. I just want a big shout out to Blanche's team and Vlad and Glenn's team. I mean, it's all hands on deck. I mean, Radley's, kind of leading the charge to make sure that we're really making progress, and I think we're going to see some major results. And basically, it's water that we're delivering but not charging for. So I think we're going to see a real impact on the amount of water that's being charged versus water that's just going unbilled. So we're excited about the progress. I am for sure excited about the progress that Radley and Blanche and Vlad and Glenn have made in the last 90 to 120 days. So thank you. We continue to work hard, get through the end of the year and see where we're at. So thank you for your efforts. All right. Cliff, anything?
Yes, sir. I want to give you all an update on 123 East 7th Street. And if you're not familiar with the address, that is one of the properties that we've been looking at to acquire for the purposes of the new public safety facility. And we have been engaged more recently in what I can carefully characterize as negotiations, because as you will know, the last time I reported on this, we had not gotten anything that would resemble a counter proposal or whatever. And it was pointed out to me by the attorney on the representing the property owner that they don't have to give us a counter, and I guess legally that's correct. I had made the assumption that they had wanted to sell the property or were willing to sell the property, and I think it's fair to say they are willing, but they don't want to. So I'm going to go through where we are and catch you up to where we are now, and make a suggestion, and then I'll be quiet. So we had an appraisal done. This is before I was the city attorney back in 23, and an offer was made for $280,000 for that property. We never got a response. I reported that here, that we got a response. It made the news, and then all of a sudden we regained contact with an attorney representing the property owner. Subsequently, we are now on attorney number 3. I don't know the reasons, don't care, but this one has responded and been responsive, and finally gave us a proposal. In the interim, we had the appraisal updated in March of this year, and I was surprised because I'm the one who ordered the update, but it was the same number, $280,000. So that appears to be a solid number based on at least the appraiser that we are using, a fellow named Danny Dulgar. I don't know how is he affiliated with the city, but that's the guy I was told to use, so that's who we used. And he's been fine. He's been very responsive and all that. The counter proposal, to cut to the chase, for the property alone is $669,000 and $669,600 with attorney's fees and costs. Based on today's numbers, that would be a total offer of $802,000. And so obviously the question should be, well, how is it they have this big number? You expect in condemnation or potential eminent domain cases to pay more than the appraisal, but this number is substantially more. What is it based on? We acquired a different parcel, 633 South Park Avenue, as a part of the same project. And in so doing, we got an appraisal for that parcel, which is was on Park Avenue on a corner, but substantially smaller. And the value for that property was $230,000. I think we ended up paying $230,000 for that property. So what the property owner in this case is doing is saying, hey, your per square foot number for that property is a lot more than the per square foot number for our property, which is bigger. And if you even them out for a per square foot number, it should be this $669,000 number, and then the fees and costs on top of that are statutory. I went back to Mr. Dulger to ask him what his understanding was and why there was this discrepancy, and I'm going to, rather than try to paraphrase it, I'm going to read to you from the email. The property one at 633 South Park was rented for $19.50 a month, which is $23,400 a year. And with that, we estimated expenses, but an investment property typically costs between 20 and 30% per year. Using the low end of 20%, which is $5,000 plus or minus, indicates a net operating income, or NOI, of $18,400. Divide that by the cap rate of 8% plus or minus, and you come up with a number of $230,000. And this is the primary way to value investment property. To our knowledge, the property we're trying to acquire is not an investment property. But one of the things he asked is, can you find out if they are renting it? And if so, what is the rate they're renting it for? And he will then reevaluate or look at the numbers if they need to be reevaluated. But I want to continue because here's what he says. Typically, the sales comparison approach is pretty close, which we use to justify the estimated value of $220,000 before they took into account the fact that it was an investment property. Neither property, meaning the one that we already acquired or the one we're trying to acquire, was valued based on the dollar per square foot of land sales in the area. There aren't any sales to justify $38.82 per square foot as they suggested. That's more like downtown Orlando or Winter Park prices. Nothing in the last 5 years in Apopka has sold for that kind of dollar per square foot, even on the high end of $10 to $15 per square foot. It's yield a $250,000 plus or minus for the McGee property, which is the 123 East 7th Street. So he then goes on to say that at 15 per square foot equals, which is the high end of what he thinks is the going rate, would be $258,750. But again, nothing vacant has sold for that based on dollar per square foot of land. So and I guess I should throw this in. Another rule of thumb, developers typically don't pay more than 30% on the land. So someone would have to build a $2 million property in order to justify a $669,800 purchase price. Putting all of that aside, I told in an email to the lawyer yesterday that I was going to be presenting this information. I asked if there was any additional information that he wanted to provide so you would get the full picture. And I did send that email last night, and he probably didn't have a full chance to respond, but he did tell me that he was going to try to get us the rental rate if there was one that applicable to this property. So my recommendation based on all of that is, first, I think I should sit down with your city administrator and with the police chief and with whoever is planning this building to see if there is an opportunity to do what is needed without acquiring this parcel. I say this not because I think it's a bad idea to acquire it or that the price is a bad price. I'm not in the price business. I'm in the law business. I say it because the primary thing that he said, which is of interest to me and that I wanted to convey to you, is his clients don't want to sell. And so we can take it, and they know that. But they're saying essentially, if you take it, this is the number we want. Can I negotiate down from there? I can try, and we'll see. But if not, then we're going to go, and this is how the process works. I want to make sure everybody understands. There's two ways. One is traditional take and one is quick take. In this case, the only viable one for time concerns is a quick take. So after having made a valid offer and them refusing it, we file the appraisal along with our petition for taking the property in court. We post the money. In this case, it would be the $280,000 plus fees and cost, whatever else is statutorily required. And within roughly 30 to 45 days, we can get an order of taking. At that point, we own the property. But what we do not know is how much we will pay for it. Then, based on state law, you actually go through a trial. You have 12 jurors. It's like a capital case that decide whether or not the value that you paid is sufficient or whether it should be more. You can bet they will have engineer, appraiser, surveyor, perhaps land planner, and they will say, oh, it's worth more. That's kind of the way the game is played. They will say it's worth more. We will use Mr. Dulger and whoever else to say, no, our number was solid. And then a jury of 12 citizens will determine who's right and who's wrong. And if they get more than what has been proposed, they get their fees, all the expert costs and so forth. So could you get up to the 800,000? You might. I don't know if you go to trial. But the key is you're going to buy that property on a quick take because you already own it. You just haven't paid for it yet fully. The money's in escrow, and that money will go out to them based on what a jury determines, plus any extra that determines. And it could be year, 2 years before you know the final cost of that property. But it's the only way you can get the property right away and start your project. So that's kind of the overview of the system.
I have a lot of questions. Okay. No, but not these should be pretty concise. I'm going to work my way backwards. So what if they're living there as their homestead, or if there's anybody living there, the quick take, we can't start the process. We would still have to wait for them to move, things of that nature, correct?
Well, we would do that because as a matter of basically courtesy, professionalism, blah, 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 we're not ready to tear anything down anyway. We still have to complete our design. We have to get to, I don't know where we are in plans, 100%. I don't even know where we are in plans because, again, if there's still an opportunity to do the building without the property, that tells me we're not as far along in the plans as we might otherwise have been. So I don't know. That's kind of why I'm suggesting I need to get with Radley. I need to get with the police chief, incoming, outgoing, whoever's designing the building, and see what is possible and see if this can be done without their property. And if it can't be done without their property, then we need to consider a counter proposal or accepting the proposal that's on the table or whatever the case may be. And even in that situation, if we say, yeah, we're going to pay the money, we can still negotiate with them over, okay, we will let you stay in the property for another 6 months because we won't need it. You know, while we're sitting here doing what we're doing, we're not going to need it for however long until we're ready to tear it down and start building. So that's kind of the way that would work.
Hang on just one second, Cliff. Bobby, can you pull that address up? I'm sure that's not homesteaded. They don't live there, but can you pull up that address just while Cliff's
123 East 7th.
East 7th Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure that's not homesteaded. Okay, I'm sorry, Cliff. I just wanted
if it's a house, it may be rented, which is one of the reasons why Dulger is asking, well, is there a rental rate on it that then could be taken into consideration to up the number based on it being a rental property? I don't think it'll come anywhere close to the $800,000 number all in, but it might. Again, I'm not the appraiser. I just report the information.
It's not homesteaded.
It's not homesteaded.
Mm-mm. Okay.
All right.
So, all right. So you're just going back to them now, or you're, I guess, because Mr. Dulger is the one that did the original appraisal as well.
Correct. He did both appraisals, both for this one and the one we already bought.
And so I'm just surprised that didn't adjust at all, the price. But either way, he's the certified appraiser there. So from there, well, I'll just say I don't think this is the right site in general for this. I think as time in our city continues to grow, this site gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it becomes functionally obsolete day one once we build it. So I think we need to kind of revamp where we're going to build this and how we're going to build it, because I think we're going to need a lot more space than what is being proposed there. So I think we need to be delicate as we move forward on this, because I think, again, we're going to have a lot more police, a lot more fire as our city grows, and this, I don't think, is the right site. But thank you for that update there.
Any other questions for Cliff on that? Okay. All right. Okay, under the mayor's report, I know Commissioner Velasquez brought them up. We've got, so Friday, here at City Hall, on the steps of City Hall, come out, we'll be unveiling a plaque, unveiling the 100 years that this building has been, it's stood. We'll read a proclamation, and then we'll head over to the Fifth Street Market. What's going to really be nice, we're working with the Historical Society, with the Orange Lodge 36 and the city. We've got a lot of interesting photographs that I think you'll be interested in seeing. We've got one, the first light pole that was put up in the city of Apopka. We've got the first lodge Grand Master, Worshipful Master, I think. And we've got the first mayor of Apopka pictures. We got a lot of really interesting. Stacy Van Camp, my assistant, really worked hard to get some interesting pictures you sure want to see. So that'll be 6 o'clock here. Then we'll walk over to Fifth Street. We got a cake over there and all the pictures. The lodge will be there with their team, some of their artifacts. We've got the Historical Society be there and the city. So it'll be a really good evening. Following Saturday, so the 4th, we've got Saturday Sounds, as Commissioner Velasquez said, 5 to 7, Dave Cap Band. Then you got to rush from there, come over here to Fifth Street again. We've got the band showcase, as they stated about the road closure, trying to raise money for both Apopka and Wekiva for their big trips at Christmas. The more money they can raise, the more kids that can go to either New Orleans or to London. So we're excited. It's going to be a great weekend. So hang around in Apopka. And the last thing, I didn't know that Commissioner Anderson was going to, and I feel not to your level of pain, but understand this isn't what we signed up for. And it was just interesting today, this morning, I was reading the paper. And it's, well, I don't know who the reporter is from the Orlando Sentinel, but the headline is Ugly American Fans Make Ryder Cup Embarrassing. I'm a big golf fan, and if there's one sport that's about being collegial, being it's not about screaming, yelling. It's about if your opponent makes a great putt and you high five him. That's the way we should be here, whether we agree or disagree, as Commissioner Anderson said. But this article, it talks about, one of my favorites of all time, Tom Watson, probably one of the most iconic golfers ever lived. And for him to come out and say that we as Americans he was horrified by the actions that we as Americans showed our European allies. It's disgusting that's what, we are Americans. We don't do this kind of stuff. And so to Commissioner Anderson's, her heartfelt, dilemma here and trials and tribulations he's facing, I just think, it's time we need to reset the way we operate. And so I've got the article for each one of you. We need to tone it down. It's as you said, there's plenty of bad things going on. We can all agree to disagree, and we're here. As my decorum state says, we can agree to disagree, and constructive criticism is welcomed here. But we've got to tone this down. We've got to get civility back in the public process. We've got staff members that are they're upset. They're petrified about the way things are going, as well as folks here at the dais. So, with that.